Testing, mic test. 1, 2, 1, 2. Keep on.
Yeah, compared to him,
1, 2, 3,
he's
4,
really loud
5,
and clear
6,
compared to
7,
me.
8, 9, 10. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
On my end, it has,
On my end? One, two, three, four, five.
1, 2,
6, 7, 8,
3,
9,
4,
10.
5, 6.
And one.
Testing,
Nice. There you go.
testing.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Mic
5.
test. 1, 2.
6, 7, 8,
1,
9,
2,
10.
1,
That's,
2.
I can even hear myself now.
Yeah.
That's a lot better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Mic check. 1,
9,
2,
8, 7, 6,
1,
5,
2,
4, 3,
1,
2,
2,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4,
6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
6,
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
10, 9, 8,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
2,
Yeah, it's a lot better.
Yeah.
1,
Keep going.
2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. I'm cool with it. What do you think, Asher? A lot better, right?
Yeah, it's a lot better.
And there's people talking, and you can hear me. So, are you cool with that replay? You got it. So, Asher, since you're gonna be on this side, you're gonna have the mic. You're gonna keep the mic when we ask for it.
If everybody can take their seats, we're going to get started shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, please have a seat. We're going to get ready to start the meeting.
Hey, Ivan.
Ladies
All
and
right, we're
gentlemen,
going to get started shortly, so everybody take your seats, please. We're kind of light today. I guess the rain just scared off everybody, even though it's gorgeous outside. All right, let me just check with these guys, and then we can get started.
Okay, go ahead.
By the way, this is a chance, since the leadership is not here, for some people to fill in the seats up there. If they want to shine, by all means. I don't want cameras looking at some emptiness. Dr. Burke, you're going to...
Sure.
Judith said she was going to do it, so we'll let... You want to do it, Judith?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's right, Clinton. Ivan, go take a seat up front. Come on. We'll get some youth up there. Evelyn, you want to sit up front? No? Come on. We got 2 more chairs. Come on. Shirley, you want to go up there? No? Kevin? No? You good? Oh, look at Robert. All right. All right, let me just get the okay and then we'll start.
So, Ms. Benitez, you gonna run the meeting? You gonna run it, right?
Just so you guys, we don't have a quorum yet, so we can't take voting, but we can start the meeting, do the public session, do the presentations. I'll let you know when we get quorum.
Thank you.
Got it.
Oh, and we'd like to thank Lucille for providing the munchkins.
Thank you.
Eat some, pass them around.
Don't leave them in front of...
We'll get started. I'm trying to watch this.
No, I passed.
No.
Hey, George, what's up, man? How you been?
Let's see.
We're on TV.
Because that's what I said. Everybody can't be like you. You know what I mean?
Summer's coming.
That's what I said. Man, I was looking. I said, shoot.
Summer's coming.
I have got to get. Man, look at here. I said I got to get my bike fixed, and I got to get my tennis elbow cutting up. I just said.
Oh, look, Norbert sat up there. Good job, Norbert. Good job. Representing.
No, I think this is the first group right here. But we'll find out. We'll find out. This one right here is the one I'm most interested in. This one. Oh, yeah. Have you written those? Oh, my gosh.
No.
They would tell you that I went berserk last week when I wrote one of those things. I went absolutely berserk. So, yeah, like I said, we ran this like with the crap. That's what I said. Don't let me kid. So,
I heard that.
and the funny thing is, I just made 26 years yesterday. Go figure. So, yeah, I know.
All right, we're just 5 short of a quorum. 5 short, yeah.
93, yeah. Just made 26 yesterday.
George, who's excused?
Long out.
Yeah. Oh, man. Today. Even eight, What is that right now? I guess they're waiting on us.
All right. It's like the military. Hurry up and wait. Yeah, we're just waiting on the feed. You're gonna run it, right?
This one.
Oh,
This one question. Where's your brother?
oh, Robert.
He's not here today.
First 3 rows. What's up, man? All right. Do you sign in? All right. 4 short. 4 short.
I'm waiting on Carl. Carl's gotta go.
Who?
Carl Strickland.
Oh, really? Okay. Is he coming?
He's supposed to be late.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, he's the first vice chair.
I'll go back in the audience. Ready for something.
Ready? All right. We're ready to start.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Community Board 12's monthly meeting. I would like you to stand to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please have a seat. John is, so somebody has to give up their seat.
Which one of us? All right, so pick a seat.
Pick a seat.
Go ahead. Judith, go ahead while he settles in.
We got a very full schedule. Hello? We have a very full schedule tonight, so we have 3 presentations, and we want to get this started. So the first one, group to be entertained, is a presentation by Constantinople and Vallone Consulting, LLC.
Good evening. Hello, board members and public. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Lauren George, and I'm with Constantinople and Vallone Consulting, and I'm the government relations representative for JCAL Development. We have here a representative of JCAL, and we are looking to rezone a property in the district at 4541 Furman Avenue. Let me just make sure. To give you a little background on JCAL, has a lot of experience, so primarily a nonprofit, affordable housing developer across the city with a lot of units in the Bronx. Bill, do you want to talk about the total? Give a little background on these properties?
Yeah, well, I'll be quick. So most of our development is in affordable housing. We are based in the Bronx, down at 55 Bruckner Boulevard. I've personally worked in the Bronx. I worked for a nonprofit for many years at Sobro before starting our own company about 8-9 years ago. So these are some examples of some of the projects that we've recently done locally in the Bronx and across the river in Harlem.
Just to give you an idea that, the company is rooted here, and has recently done a project, at Willow Avenue in the South Bronx. So what we're proposing here in your community is, again, a rezoning, and it essentially looks to extend the same zoning district that you just approved for 1 block up in the 241st Street rezoning. So we're looking for an R7D C24 commercial overlay for this block in blue. So it's essentially along the elevated train line from 241st down to this line where the train goes out into the substation. And, this is to facilitate residential use in a mixed-use property. We're looking to build a 100% affordable housing development with community facility and retail along the White Plains corridor. So the property goes between White Plains Road and Furman Avenue. This zoning on this block is M11. It has not changed since the 1961 zoning, and we're looking to update it with current uses. This is the development site here, and this one on the left side is the rezoning district that is being proposed. So our proposed development is a new building with 172 residential units, all affordable, with 7,400 square feet of retail along White Plains Road, and that's one of the biggest features here that we're excited about, is bringing new retail and activating the streetscape with some quality commercial options, as well as a community facility along the Furman Avenue side. So the back of the development, this here is showing an aerial view, if you will, of the proposed development. This is the White Plains Road side, and this is the Furman Avenue side. So underground parking will be provided here, in addition to an indoor recreation area, outdoor recreation area, and planted facilities, landscaped facilities for the residents. So it's a two-segment building with a shared core or shared first floor. Because of the grade change here from White Plains Road to Furman, the Furman side is 10-story building and the White Plains Road is a 9-story building, but they're both the same height, essentially, from the White Plains Road side. This is a massing of the building. And again, the rezoning proposal is to facilitate a mixed use here and to really continue the commercial corridor that already exists along much of White Plains Road. This is a transit-rich area, and we're happy to be able to develop here where, you know, there's a lot of opportunities for people to ride public transit. Obviously, there's a Metro North, the train line ends here, several bus routes. So we're confident that this is transit-oriented development. Obviously, it's right on the train line. So again, as I said, pulling the commercial corridor and activating the commercial corridor along White Plains Road is the idea, revitalizing the area and making it better for pedestrian access and adding to the pedestrian access amenities along White Plains Road. This just shows land uses in the area. So everything in yellow is residential, everything in purple is industrial. But if you see the mixed use along White Plains Road, as you know, I'm sure you're very familiar, as we all are right here, all the mixed use properties along White Plains Road that we seek to extend. This is just some site pictures of the current site as it stands now. From Furman Avenue, there's an existing one-story warehouse that's vacant right now, which will be demolished. This again shows the project area for the rezoning. The commercial overlay will be only 100 feet from White Plains Road back, so it's not going to be mapped, or it's not proposing to be mapped on the Furman Avenue side. This is views from White Plains Road on the elevated train, and essentially it goes to where the train pulls off there to go into the depot. More views of the site, and that's across the street from White Plains Road. This is a rendering of the proposed building from White Plains Road. So this is the idea. And so then we get into the distribution of affordable units and the unit mix. So we're proposing, and this is again very early in the process. I don't know that I talked about that yet, but we're coming to you at least about a year before this project is going to be moving through the city planning phase, or going to be certified. So we're looking to certify this project by the end of this year, and we wanted to come to you early and get your feedback and opinions about, what you think about the project early on, so that we can try to incorporate and respond to some of your input. So essentially, this shows you the income distributions that the units will be affordable to. It's 172 units. 45% of this building, or 77 units, are going to be affordable to folks earning less than 50% of AMI, and that's about $46,900 a year for a family of 3. So about half the building. This local community, the local community's median income is about between $53,000 and $57,000 a year, and that's based on the most recent census data. So what we're providing here is median, or would accommodate most of the folks living in this community already. With 70% AMIs and 80% AMIs, what that translates to locally is 120% of the Community District 12 area median income is roughly equal to 70% of the city's area median income. So 80% is then 139% of the local median income. And we're, again, providing about 95 units to meet those households' needs and to be affordable to those households so that they're only paying 30% of their income for the rent. So again, local AMI is about 53,000 to 57,000. It depends on which sources and which area you're talking about. But that's roughly to give you a little I'm sure you know that, but just to give you a sense of that. And then looking at the monthly rents that we would be charging for these units, this is based on, the HPD programs, and it would be relevant to the compliant with the HPD term sheet. So it's the extremely low and low income term sheet called ELA, but these are the rents charged for those different apartment sizes and household income levels. So let's say for a family of 3 in a 2-bedroom who's making about 50% of AMI, it's about $1,069 a month, as an example, median on this chart. I know there's a lot here, but so our unit sizes are larger than most. I mean, HPD has guidelines that we try to exceed and, provide amenities in our apartments with really nice finishes. JCAL has a lot of experience doing really high quality affordable housing developments with nice finishes and, really beautiful apartments that I think everybody would be happy to live in. And we'll show you some examples when we come back to you next time. But this is the distribution of 1-bedroom studios and 2 bedrooms. And in terms of a marketing strategy, would you like to talk about this? Sure. Okay.
So of course we have to comply with HPD lottery process, but we try to exceed the 50% preference as much as possible. So part of that is kind of getting the word out as soon as you can. So when we're about ready to go marketing, we'd like to come back and let everyone know, because the marketing window is about 60 days from when they open it up on Housing Connect to when it closes, and that can go pretty quick if you're not aware of what's going on. So we like to come back. HDC has offered to come to these settings, and they will walk people through the process, how you get on Housing Connect, and answer questions as far as the application process. But we've often done this in some of the other community boards. We worked in Boards 4, and Board 1, Boards 3. We come ahead of time, right before the marketing, to let people know so that they don't miss it, and so people are aware of that. And we'd be glad to bring the marketing people here to walk through in a special session on how you do that as far as that goes. And again, there's other, what we'll also do is we will put a sign up on the site ahead of time. Again, everything goes through the HPD process, but what we'll do is we'll give a sign ahead of time and let people send an email and kind of get on a pre-list that we'll make sure that when it opens up that we send it to, because a lot of times when people walk past, they're constantly asking, when is it going to be ready? When I want an apartment, and that kind of puts them on a list. It doesn't give them any preference. It just makes sure that it's one more thing to get notified, because it really is a lottery. So in a recent 58-unit project that we just did, we had close to 62,000 applications. So it's really tough to, it's just the numbers aren't good. So the more people we have from the local community board that apply, the better off we're going to be to get above 50%. So, yeah, that's not happening. Okay. We make a conscious effort of trying to purchase materials as much as possible from local Bronx businesses. My partner's not here, but we do a lot of the stuff: Casa Building, Green Hill Industrial Supply, Jenna Concrete, Tiffany Lumber. There's a lot of them. We have a lot of subs that are Bronx-based: Noble Electric, Yates Restoration. So we make an effort. I used to work for a company called Sobro, and that was an economic development company. So I grew up in that spirit of trying to, do procurement and technical assistance, try to get as many local people as possible in. Also, as part of the process, HPD has real teeth now, which is good, as far as MWBE companies into the project. So the target's around 25%, and it's not like the ICAP where you try to do it. HPD is very diligent about that, and we've been very successful in the last 2 projects we've had of identifying those companies. And we work locally. If you guys have companies, we'd love to hear about them and kind of coordinate with them.
It's not relevant.
So.
And also are committed to local hiring, and we'll be working
So, and one of the things we like to do is kind of try to, do as many kind of interesting things for the community as possible. So rather than, not there's anything wrong with 99-cent stores, but rather than another 99-cent store, put some uses in that that can kind of really uplift the community. So if you've heard about the Lit Bar, she just recently opened up. That's in one of our spaces down in Alexander Avenue. We also work with the guys, Alfredo and Ramon from the Bronx Draft House. They opened up the bistro down there. So we made a commitment to work with local entrepreneurs to the extent possible to bring them in and do some cool uses that really have an impact on the neighborhood. And if you have local, I mean, it's ahead of the game, but sometimes it's really not too far ahead of the game to work kind of locally with people that you might think would be a good fit. We would love to do that.
I'll just interject real quick and say that Alfredo is the son of my predecessor, Carmen Rosa. So just so you know who he is and how he ties into this community board.
Okay, so we really believe in it because you can do something and just throw something up and everyone needs housing and you put in some blah retail, but you can really do something that makes a difference in the community.
One more? I think that's essentially the gist of the project. So we're eager to hear.
Oh, sorry.
We're eager to hear from you and have take questions and listen to your feedback on the project.
First of all, I'm sorry I missed the first part of your presentation. I'm the first vice chair. Whoever started this meeting, I thank them for taking over for me till I could get here. My daughter's going to prom tonight, so it was like, hell froze over. But anyway, to put it point blank. But the issue is, I would have liked to see this presentation done before the land use committee first and the surrounding people. I was very surprised to see you on the agenda, and since I was running the meeting, nobody had the courtesy to tell me you were on the agenda tonight. But I want you to come back and explain
Oh, certainly.
to the land use committee, so the land use committee can present it to the board for their approval. And at that time, all the people that live around the community will be invited to come to listen to your presentation. I am sure there's nobody here from Furman Avenue tonight or portions of White Plains Road where this development's going.
Yep.
And that's an issue with me as chair of the land use, as well as the first vice chair of the board. So, it sounded great, but to me, I just don't want to make you think you wasted your time because you're going to have to give the same presentation over again.
And we totally intend to come back.
Okay, yeah, but
For
to
sure.
the land use
Yes.
committee, all
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Understand? You might think you're going to come back a second time to talk to the community, but the key is you have to talk to
The
the land
locals.
use
I hear you.
and the people who live in the vicinity
Yep.
of the development.
Yep.
It sounds very good, sounds all nice and everything, but you're not looking for zoning changes because we did the zoning change over there already. Is that correct?
No, let me correct that. We are looking for a rezone. I'm trying to go back.
No, that's even more important to come to land.
Certainly. So let me just explain. So we
Yeah.
will be back multiple times. This is a very, very far in advance
Yeah, no,
pre-certification.
That's great.
We're here early. We're going to come back for sure to land use. In fact, I thought we were going to land use tonight, so George can explain that. But
He
we'll be
will,
back as per the normal course of a ULURP process. We certainly will be back after this is certified and do, everything that you normally would do. But I just wanted to point out, this is the map of the rezone area.
Okay.
And where we are in the process is far in advance of the certification.
Oh, I happen to like people who think ahead.
That's
All
what
right.
we're here for.
Okay, but the point is, I'm sorry you weren't given the correct information.
That's okay.
That I should have went to land use first.
No, it's no problem.
Because we do want, again, I can't emphasize this more, that we want the people that live in the vicinity of where this is going up.
Yep.
I personally think it's a good idea from what I heard of it. I missed the first few minutes of it. But,
Yep.
it sounds good, but we have to go through the regular process of how the board does it.
Yeah.
And I thank you for taking your time out to come tonight. And these lucky people that are sitting in the audience got a heads up on it before the neighbors who are gonna have to live with this development, and I don't mean that in a negative term.
Sure.
I mean in a positive term. And you know, I do thank you for coming out, but until the land use, you know, looks at it, you know, how the rezoning is gonna go, I mean, the building just north of you, we just rezoned.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't see an issue for rezoning the property that you need rezoned, similar to what theirs is.
Right, there is a land use rationale due to the fact that it was rezoned the same exact district we're asking for, so that's
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah.
we're trying to continue that. But yes, we'll definitely be back and consult the local neighbors for sure.
so-
And I wanted to point out that we have photos of, you want to just pass them around?
Well, I would give a set to the land use committee.
Yeah, of course. Just photos of JCal apartments that they've developed. I think those are photos of 950 Summit,
Yeah.
which is a recently developed affordable building by
Well-
JCal, so you get a sense of what the interiors
I
of the
saw what
apartment.
happened down on Alexander Avenue. I was very impressed with the
Yeah,
what is it,
that's
the
their
lip,
property.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
Okay, yep,
But,
thank you.
There's questions.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
How are you? Thank you. So, Mr. Stricker actually stole some of my thunder when you talked about the land use committee, because I was going to ask about the housing committee, had they come before the housing committee. But I have a couple of questions, but I'm just going to ask one, because I'm certain that board members have other questions. So I'm going to ask one, all right? And I want you to think about this, all right? And the reason I say that is because, you know, we always have developers coming in with affordable housing, right? And that term really is starting to piss me off. So I'm going to ask you this question. So forgive me for asking this, but if you had an opportunity, because you say you want to help the community, right? Which we appreciate, right? We really appreciate helping the community. So if you really want to help us, and if you had an opportunity to do something with that property other than build housing, what would you do?
I'd have to think about that. So thank you for posing that question. We'll come back
But see,
to you.
but that tells me something. That means you hadn't thought about it. And see, that's what I'm talking about when we're talking about helping the community, because if you really want to help us, you know, we're kind of sort of saturated with housing, and in particular affordable housing. So, yeah, I'm probably not going to be an advocate for your project, just letting you know in advance, since you like to think in advance, and so do I, and, you know, so do members of the board, just to let you know. But that's something to think about, okay?
Thank you.
Those cues are tough.
Mr. Hall.
Yes, good evening. All the gentlemen before me, they stole all my thunder. I'm the housing chair, so I'm in last place. But that being said, that's what I love about the committee that I run, because they're very elaborate. And the question that the previous gentleman is alluding to is this word affordability. It comes to the point, affordable to whom? All right? The way we are, as we speak right now, folk cannot afford a lot of what you consider or concern yourself with affordable housing. And those numbers, which I did see, they are fair to just below adequate, based on the community in the Northeast Bronx at large. But I understand you took another statistical measure to evaluate things to make it progressive in the best interest of what you're trying to do. But you have to be very careful, because that's what everyone's alluding to, and probably the next person that takes this mic will say the same thing. But as the gentleman said, what would you build? We are in desperate need of parking. So you can go back, since you're going to be back in our faces for the next few times, and you're going to talk to our illustrious land use committee, of which I'm part of, please take that into consideration, along with the fact that, number one, is Furman Avenue a two-way street?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Narrow.
All right. I'm a little concerned about Furman, but I don't live there. So that's number one. Number two, you're going to have some some of your apartments will overlook the train station, is that correct? Do you have the glass where you don't hear the train?
Yes.
You do.
There will
Okay.
be extreme sound attenuating glass on the
Is
windows.
it throughout the entire development?
The whole building.
The whole building. All right, that is a large step in the right direction.
Of course, I mean,
Thank
yes.
you, thank you. Okay, and we'll wait, the land use committee will wait for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
If you have to be on the board to ask a question right now. Yeah, no.
Good evening, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
I wanted to ask you if you did an environmental impact statement for your project?
Not yet. So again, we're in the very early stages of this process. So we have Langen Engineering doing testing of the site right now and any remediation that might be needed. And then we are going to have, what is it called? Environmental Studies Corp, Hiram? Doing a full EAS as we speak. So we're right now in that process. And I think, takes about 6 months. So
Right,
the goal
and-
is to certify after that's completed.
And how did you target our community for your development? I mean, did you ask questions about what we needed, as I believe some of my colleagues have alluded to? And the main reason we need the environmental impact statement is to see how it's going to affect the other houses in the area, which our chair of the housing committee spoke about. How is it going to impact them? Is it going to stop them from parking, which Brother Hall also spoke about, as far as sanitation and overcrowding. And I know Furman Avenue, it's not that wide.
Right.
It's really not that wide, and there's a lot of commercial properties back there.
This-
It could end up being a real big problem,
Okay.
and
Yeah, talk about that.
later. Thank you.
Absolutely. A couple things. One, our intention would be to do parking on the building. A lot of times people don't do parking. We certainly do parking on the lower level of the building. I actually sit on the New York City Brownfield Partnership Board, so I'm very sensitive to environmental issues and things of that nature, so we will be exploring all those things and dealing with that. But yes, the impacts will all be studied, and again, we have to kind of scope it out and figure out what it was. And then you also asked the question, how do we know about it? We use off-gang architects who just worked up the block on that other rezoning, and just through conversations was saying, this is a great neighborhood, you guys should check it out. So we came up here and looked at things, and that's kind of how it came about.
It's for board members only, sir.
Board
Please
mem-
sit down.
Excuse me, sir. Sir.
You're out
Sir.
of order.
Sir, please do not answer.
People that live in that zoning areas, because, we have these affordable housing, and what happens is that people from outside
He's out of order. You can't answer the question, all right?
within the community are not able to afford the housing because the job is taken away.
You see, this is an example of not respecting the process. The meetings that we have here are for the board members. You are given an opportunity to ask questions when the community speaks, not before then. So please have a seat, or we will call the authorities and have you removed. You are out of order. No, not for you, no. It's for the community board. This is a full board meeting. It is on, it's called Community Board 12. These 47 members are our voting members.
Okay. I have a question. Who's going to do the EIS for you? You have a,
Yeah, Environmental Studies Corp, they've done a lot of the environmental statements. We can get you some information on their company, though.
I would like to see their background, if you don't mind. I'm sure they're legit and good, but I'd like to make sure we're going to get a good EIS. And again, I will tell you, you guys have to look at Furman Avenue, because that is narrow. You got two cars passing each other, it's tight. And the Resorts Casino on Yonkers Avenue has their resort I call it the gambling bus, but it takes them to the resort. But it's wide, and when you meet him on Furman Avenue, it's very hard to bypass him, and you have a lot of double parking there, mainly because the 238th Street rail yards are just across the street on the other side of Furman Avenue, including an auto body shop and a few other things. And there's a lot of double parking there, and most of the parking's taken up. So as they brought up, parking is essential. If you get the builders, parking is essential to be provided for the tenants in the building. I can't agree with the city's concept. If you build in near transit, they're going to take transit. No, everybody loves their car, all right? I mean, they may take the number 2 train to work, or the 5, which runs during rush hour to work, but or maybe even the bus. But the point is, they're going to want their car, and they're going to have to find a place to put it. Although nobody guarantees you a parking space, but we have to be realistic. If you got 72 families in there with cars, I guarantee you, out of that, maybe 40 of them have 2 cars. All right? So, or 3, well, 3, like at my house. But anyway, the point is, you have to really take a good look at that. And whoever does the EIS has to take a good look at that.
Definitely.
Yes, sir.
So,
Okay.
we got,
Excuse me.
You want to go?
Excuse me.
yeah. So, I'm probably the harshest on the board when it comes to developers, but I do want to say, if you're being completely transparent and truthful, I want to say that this is one of the better proposals or presentations that I personally have seen. So with that being said, the $1 million question, moving over from my esteemed colleagues over here, about how many parking spaces do you project?
We still have to do the zoning analysis. We like to put as many as possible, because once you build a building, you don't put parking, you can never add it back in. One of the advantages of the grade change is you can actually come in off of, let's say, example, Furman, and have a whole level of parking down below. One of the things that we have to do is some geotechnical, like probing and things like that, to see if there's rock and things down there, because we could even go another sub-level. But when it's able to do parking, we absolutely do as much parking as possible, even exceeding zoning, because we see what you see is that the demand is always there, and always gets filled up, with a few exceptions. There's a couple places in Brooklyn, I'll be honest, where we build parking and it goes wanting, but other than that, it's usually
Obviously, parking is not everything. You see that we have a lot of concerns, and we've been duped more times than we would like, you know? And so that's why I say, you know, if you're being completely truthful and transparent, you know, and from what I see in your numbers and presentation, it's the better of what we've seen in the past.
Okay. Young lady, do you want to ask?
Excuse me. Can I have the floor? Can I ask the question? Can I have the floor? Can I ask the question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is each unit going to have the individual washer and dryer?
Right now, we have not proposed that. We would have like a large below.
Big empty space on the for washer and dryer. Empty space. It's not, and nothing's there.
No, that's the kitchen right there.
It would be in the washer and dryer, wouldn't it? The washer and dryer would be in the kitchen. Big empty space.
Okay, that's something, I mean, we certainly can consider looking at that.
Okay. Robert,
Okay,
Robert.
yeah, just one more thing,
Robert.
because,
Robert, could you give her she's been trying to talk for a while.
I'm sorry. All right. Very quickly, I represent the community. I just happen to be on the board. However, the gentleman did have a good question. And since you're going to be around for a while and you found us meaning the facility that you're getting ready to build, and we're going to have a few meetings, maybe we can have a resource fair and a job fair to help people know that this particular environment, this facility is looking for workers.
Yep.
The most important thing is that the people within the community know
Yes.
that the opportunity to work is there. A lot of people have their OSHA, and I believe that's what the gentleman was alluding to, but I want to get his question out because it's in the best interest of community. So I'm looking at, and I see this is going to happen June 1st, and maybe you could take a page out of the YMCA and
No, we do, for sure.
and do that,
And you
because that would really be a step in the right direction
Mm-hmm.
as far as enhancing the community.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Okay.
We did mention it in the presentation. Maybe you
Not a
didn't.
problem.
Maybe we glossed over it, but we have a commitment to local hiring, and in other projects, we've worked with local nonprofits to help recruit and retain workers locally from that community district. So Bronx Works has been a partner on other
Okay.
projects, and we would, if they're not, really active in this district, we would look to you for suggestions of local nonprofits that recruit and retain that we might be able to work with, to partner
Okay.
specifically
All right.
with. So we are committed to that, and we would be very eager to do so.
Thank you.
Okay. No, doctor, please. Doctor, please.
How are you all? Good evening. So I was wondering in regard to your parking, if there was a cost associated with it. Are you renting the spaces out to the tenants, or is it just free and available?
Part of that equation is what Bill mentioned with whether there's bedrock, how much it costs to create the parking. If we do a multi-level parking, it's going to be more expensive. Sometimes there's water table issues. So we really, at this juncture, I don't think can know that yet, but
But generally, we charge about, let's say, $125 a month for parking.
All right, and I just asked because we were talking about the affordability of the units and what's considered affordable more or less. Another question that I had was in regard to the housing size. I saw your incomes, but they're based on larger families. That doesn't necessarily include people who may not have a family size of that
yeah.
number. So that's, I guess,
You have
something to take into consideration in regard to the people in this community that are from here and looking to stay here. If they're single or couples just starting out, that excludes them, requiring that family size of 3 within those.
No, it's not required. So that was just an example that I put
Okay.
out to give you an example. But so for one person, the units that we're proposing, $36,550
Okay.
is the amount for a studio, like for one person. For 2 people, for example, at, the median amount for our units is $41,750. So it changes based on unit size and family size. So, yeah,
Okay,
it
great.
kind of tries to address all of those
No,
aspects.
that's fine. And in regard to, in the community, you mentioned Bronx Works. We also have SUNY continuing education centers just
Okay.
throughout the Bronx. We
Uh-huh.
have one in this area not too far. They may be another resource to
Yep.
employ people from the community.
Yep, for sure. Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Doctor, you want to talk?
I have one last question.
Okay.
And I think Mr. Holloman mentioned it as well as Mr. Hall, our housing chair. So I saw in your presentation where you discussed MWBE participation. And just to give the community a background, I went to a meeting with Scott Stringer where he talked about MWBEs and MWBE participation. And the goal is, of course, to get it 35% citywide. And you said you have 25%, which is good. But my question in particular for this community is the following. Of that 25%, what percentage of that is of people that are in particular African American or Caribbean American? Because I think statistically those numbers are extremely low. So can you give us a breakdown as to your 25%? What percentage of those is contractors within the African American community? Thank you.
I don't have that data, but.
Yeah, that I do not know, but that I can certainly get for you. So that's not a problem to get, how our breakdown.
Yep.
One more question here, Carl.
Yeah, go ahead, Carl.
As you can see, I think the problem we have is that our community, we consider our community Community Board 12. You might consider the community the whole world. So my question to you is, who will be permitted to live in these houses? Because if you bring people from the outside, you're not helping the community at all. Because the people that are living here aren't getting any benefit.
Sure. So we do seek to exceed the 50% local Community District 12 Yes, so there's 50%, so our program is that the lottery of all the applicants, all those thousands of people that will apply for these units, 50% of them will be going to local Community District 12 residents. And that's like, will happen. That's a requirement that we will meet, and we have exceeded and seek to exceed in the past in other buildings. So that's why Bill talked about doing workshops, doing outreach, partnering with local nonprofits or civic groups or some, whoever you suggest. Like, we'll have a list to do outreach when the marketing time comes, which is a few years down the road at this point. But we want to serve local residents.
But that says that 50% of the people that will be living there won't come from the community.
They could come from anywhere in the city, that is correct.
Well, that's what our beef is, that
Sure,
you're not
I hear you,
helping the
and there is
community.
actually, we don't want to get into it, but, some people think that it's better to diversify and allow people from all over to come in, but HPD has a policy of 50% preference, and that's what we want to do, is serve this community district.
We have a lot of presentation. We gotta move ahead.
Yeah, we're going to have to cut this short. I got 2 more presentations to be here made tonight, and we do want to get home. I like to get you out of here by 9:30, 9:45 at the latest. But, I don't know how long the other presentation. I just want to thank you. If I don't want to hear when we're past 9:45, go ahead.
There's no game tonight.
Go ahead.
Yankees and Mets played at 12. Good evening. My name is Robert Cumberbatch. I reside in one of the new buildings that was recently built in District 12. That's on 214th Street and White Plains Road, north of the plumbing store. Now, they put in a new building. I'm in the new building. They've got parking spaces, and the management company rented them out to somebody else outside of the building. Also, another thing to answer the question, I did go on NYC Connect in order to get that apartment. Yes, it is a weighted lottery because those who reside in this District 12 had an extra 25% weighted towards their application in getting that apartment. So you go and sign up on New York NYC Connect and go through the whole thing. Yes, I can attest to it because I got my apartment down there because I wanted to live where I grew up and went to grade school at. I said grade school. That's right, 78. And it's a good system. I'm going to get out of here. It's a good system. It's going to be able for people, the people from Furman and around that area, they got to put it in NYC Connect. That's all I got to say. All right. Thank you. Good development.
Okay,
Hope to
thank
see you
you
again.
for bringing that up.
Congrats for winning the lottery. It's hard to do.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time.
I'm looking forward to see this presentation again. I missed the first few minutes, and again, I apologize for being late, but it was beyond my control. Okay, the next presentation is going to be given by the STAG group.
That's another developer?
That's mine, yeah. Thank you. So up, down? Up, down? Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for having us. We'll be brief, or briefer, I promise. My name is Austin Graham. I'm the Director of Business Development at the STAG Group. I'm joined by Kathleen Bradshaw, our Chief Counsel of the STAG Group.
Thank you.
We're here to talk our development at 761 East. I'm sorry? Is that better? Yes. Sorry.
That's all right, I don't want to hear what you have.
We okay?
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay. Austin Graham, I'm the Director of Business Development at the STAG Group. This is Kathleen Bradshaw, our Chief Counsel of the STAG Group. We're here to discuss 761 East 233rd. I think some of you are very familiar with Mark Stagg and the work that he's done. I'll give you the nickel tour of who we are and what we're doing, and then we'll go into the project. Mark's been developing in the Bronx and almost solely in the Bronx for 25 years. Started off building walk-ups, 2, 3-family homes, and we've progressed to building 120, 140 unit buildings all throughout the Bronx. We have 2 projects up in Yonkers right now, but predominantly of all the 2,500 units we've built, an overwhelming majority have been in the Bronx. This goes on to what I just said. It's important to note our company has 3 core tenants. We're not just a development and construction company. We're also a management company. That means that every building that we build, we keep in-house. We then transfer into our management company. It's indicative of our commitment to the community, our commitment to every building that we build. We keep it in the family, we keep it in the management company, and we thus remain very committed to our tenants in the neighborhoods that we build. Community was a big step, piece of conversation earlier. You know, as I said earlier, Mark's been a Bronx guy since the beginning. The Bronx has been very good to Mark, and Mark in turn has been very good to the Bronx, be it through toy drives, turkey giveaways, the Stag Family Center, which has just been completed at 5731 Broadway. Is really a seminal moment for the company in terms of what we've been able to give back. We will continue in that tradition as we continue to build and expand in the Bronx. This is just a model of our company. Again, this is an overwhelming majority all in the Bronx. The green is highlighted the financial crisis, which really is a real testament to how fiscally responsible we are as a company. We don't overbuild, we don't overdevelop. We always finish on time, we always finish on budget, and we've just experienced tremendous growth in the last few years. Mark, who you may or may not know or have met, that's his bio, that's up on the website, and Jay, who has over 40 years experience in the Bronx. There's so many buildings in this neighborhood and in the Bronx that we built, all to really spectacular specifications, and we've really improved every community that we've built in. Just some renderings of what we're doing. The buildings we're building now are bigger, more technologically advanced, better parking facilities, better security features, community centers, rec rooms, fitness rooms are all part of every building we build now. We really have some marquee properties on the way. This is on Fort Independence, 120-unit building. It'll be very similar, not only in aesthetics, but in size of what we're doing on 233rd. This is up in Yonkers on Bronx River Road. That's a very big building for us, 160 units. This is Van Cortlandt, or Moshulu as it's called. This will be a very big building as well. And this is some of the stuff that we've done recently. This is Pelham Parkway, which is a beautiful building if you've ever gone by it. Webster Avenue, which we just had a ribbon cutting on a couple weeks ago. That's a fully occupied building now. And 5959 Broadway, which is at the foot of Manhattan College. So it gives you an idea of what we look to build and the aesthetics. They're similar but different in everything that we do. That brings us to 233rd Street. This is the rendering. Obviously, we're just digging at the moment, but this is the current rendering. It'll be 116 units. 5 of those will be studios. A majority will be 1-bedrooms, 74, 37 2-bedrooms. There is parking. It's 54 slots. Some will be outside, some will be inside. There's 2,500 square feet of rec area that's in one room. We can make it 2 rooms if need be. And that's where we are currently, and we just wanted to give you an update on what we're looking to do. We're happy to hear and answer any questions you may have in the process.
Are there any questions from the board? Yes, Deacon. Can we give Deacon a microphone, please?
Good evening. Is it the same stag that came to the board some years ago and gave us a plan and then they just disappear?
Is it the same stand for what building? I'm sorry?
This is a building and Holland somewhere around 214. Anyway, I understand that the same stag company, they put up these buildings and then they're called flip. In other words, they just put up these buildings and then they told it was some other company.
No, Mark has held on to all of his properties.
Number 2, they deviate.
I'm sorry, Mark has held on to all of his properties.
Okay.
So if you're saying, is he going to flip the building? No, that's not what he intends to do.
Okay, the plan they gave up the board here, after the buildings start going up, they deviate from what they really bring to the board. You see, and because we doesn't have a watchdog committee to follow up on these developers coming into the Bronx, they say they're going to build this way, and then they don't keep their promise. They don't keep to the word. And when the really problem occurred, there's nowhere to be found.
But if I may, if you look at the last 10 projects we've done in the Bronx, that's not indicative of who we are and what we've done. We've always held to the plan. We've met with the community boards. We've worked step by step with them. If there are changes in the plans, you guys will know about it. As I said earlier, we incorporate every building that we build into our management company, so our name stays on the building for its duration, for the life of the building. So and that's why we're here today. If there are problems along the way, that's why you come to me, Kathy, Mark himself, or Jay. We're more than happy to work with you guys along the way. But it's not Mark's MO or Stag's MO to deviate, as you say, on a different direction.
Let me refer you to the housing president.
Robert, go ahead.
Okay. It has come to our attention previously, and I do believe it was about 2.5 years ago. All right? The Stag Company came to our committee and made a proposition, explained a lot of circumstances on housing, and then from that point on, they were nowhere to be found. And there was no justification, and it's my understanding it took a while for us to get you to come here. But what we've been doing, okay, or what I should be saying is I've been talking to chairs from other community boards, and you're right, you do have work all over, but your work leaves a lot to be questioned, okay, in some respects, as compared to other projects that are presently being developed also. So I just hope that we can have a true open dialogue and not a search committee to find the Stag group in the future, so that we can get to the bottom of a lot of the progressive projects that you project to have or are going to have in this community.
If I may, I don't know that we've been hard to get, and I don't think that that's Mark's intention. In particular, in this project, we've had several design changes working with the architect, and the project probably wasn't ready for presentation until very recently. We still are, our architect's plans are still, until last week, we're still being refined. So to present the project before we had something more viable, we felt that it's better to wait until we had something more concrete, and that's why we were able to put together the project for you and present it to you this evening.
Well, okay, then we can both do the same. We can wait and define or redefine what we're looking for or what's in the best interest of the progressive individuals who will be your tenants. It's not a problem. I just found it a little problematic. I was concerned as a housing chair because it did take a little bit, it didn't happen right away.
Okay.
And I just hope we can have clear, concise dialogue in the future so that we can go forward on the same level.
Well, this board will have my card and Kathy's card after tonight, and let's assume that from now on, we will have an open dialogue as it
Okay.
pertains to this project.
Fair enough.
I commit that to you.
Okay, not a problem.
Good question, Robert. George, you had something to say?
Yeah. So I'll just explain what's happened up and what Robert's point is. One of our board members who's not here this evening made a request because you guys purchased the property on 233rd Street, which is one of our last flagship locations in this district. It's a high-profile site, it's right off the train, and the STAG group has a history in this community board. He has a history in the borough of the Bronx. We requested, or we made a request for the STAG group to make a presentation back in November. It is now what we've made. And the only reason is because it just so happened that the STAG group needed a tax credit. And they needed it from Councilmember Cohen's office for 5 units that were in our district. And he backed our play, Councilmember Cohen, and so we're very grateful to him. That's not working? Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Cohen backed our play insofar as he required, we were having this conversation with Adolfo. Adolfo promised that somebody would be here. And when I say Adolfo, it's carry on our former borough president, required somebody to be here. That's my statement, so I'm glad that you guys are here. My concern and my question is, what is the marketing plan for this building? Because you had another building, you've had several buildings, but your latest development, last completed development, I should say, went to DHS HRA and is on their master lease program as affordable, as permanent housing. I don't necessarily disagree with that, with creating permanent housing. However, that's not how the building was told to us initially. And I think what my board member was saying, where you flip it, we don't want to see 233rd Street developed as something as market rate housing, and then when you don't meet the numbers that you're looking to get, you turn over to DHS and try to get, or cut a deal with Praxis or whomever you want to build in, a permanent shelter. So what is the plan for 233rd Street?
Currently, the plan is that it will be a market rate building with the affordability requirement to meet the 421A16 requirement, which would be at least 30% affordable.
But you're not going to HPD for this?
This is not a...
No financing programs through HPD?
No.
Now, just so our board members understand what's going on, the previous presenter is going to HPD and getting financing through HPD, so as a community board, we have a little more control, especially in light of the fact that they have to go through a ULURP, but even if they weren't going through the ULURP, they're going through a lottery process that is going to be dictated by HPD. As opposed to this development, which is not requiring any financing from the city, other than the 421 tax credits, but those are available to anybody. If you bought a property and you said, I want to develop and I need these tax credits, they would be available to you. There are no provisions that would preclude them from turning this into a homeless shelter. That is my point on HPD financing and non-financing. So again, we've already did our due diligence because we were very concerned. We've already reached out. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. This project is not done yet. The city might renege and say, hey, you know what? Because my understanding that you actually do run a very good program. You do, in terms of homeless shelters, Praxis and the STAG group run excellent programs. We never really have any issues with them. Or I should say other boards as well don't have issues. Again, but the concern is, you're saying that it's market rate. What is market rate for you? What are you projecting?
In terms of the rental,
Yeah.
the building is probably at least a year and a half out, but we would probably say that market rate would fall within what Section 8 probably would be the top of a market rate scale, so that a one-bedroom may be going for anywhere from, it could be from $1,200 to, I think, $1,650 now is what Section 8 is offering.
For a one-bedroom. My final question will be, why don't you target, or why don't you use the HPD system?
Why don't we use the?
Like the financing, like the group before said they're using the ELA program from HPD. Why do you not make yourselves available to the 3 tiers that HPD has for financing?
Well, our affordability levels haven't been determined yet, and we will be looking at a market study for it. 130 AMI would be a top under the 421A16 program.
Yeah.
It can go down to 60% AMI, 80% being, 80 to 100 probably being an average AMI. Their program is completely different. We're not getting tax credits, we're getting a tax abatement or an exemption on the real estate taxes.
Yeah.
They're getting financing, besides the fact that they're also asking to have a zoning change, which requires your approval. HPD is going to finance their program. They'll have tax credits and they'll have grants. We will be financing privately with bank lending at normal rates for, construction loans and for permanent loans. So we're not in the same, we're not in the same boat as them. HPD does not accept every project. As you could imagine, there's a limit on the funds that they have available. They generally like bigger projects, and this is 116 units. It might be at the low end of what an HPD project would be, but we did not present this to HPD. We felt that the timing would be a long delayed process. As you know, the project that was presented before, they may not be building for another 2 years because they have the whole.
That's because of Euler, yeah.
Yeah.
They have to go through that. All right, I have no more.
And
Any other
I
questions
have the
from board?
mic. Dr.
Yes,
Robbins.
Dr. Robbins.
Yes, I was going to ask you, if you said there was new technologies involved with the building, does that include renewable energy sources like solar energy or geothermal, any of those?
In order to meet the New York City building requirements now, the buildings have to have certain energy standards, and we meet those standards and mostly exceed those standards. Part of the process is energy commissioning reports that are presented to the building department by outside agencies that come in and audit the heating system, the hot water system, the insulation, the windows, the grades on the windows. So those are outside agencies that come in and verify the standards are met. So that is, I can't tell you that it will be solar energy. I don't know that.
Do you have to pay separate for gas and electricity as a tenant? Does a tenant have to pay, is gas and electric included in their rent?
I believe at this time, the gas and electric is included in the rent, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I have a question for you. Did you by any chance do a brownfield application for this particular site that you're looking at?
No, this is not a Brownsfield site. This is a little E designation. So there will be some remediation at the site, but it's not a Brownsfield.
Okay, it's not a brownfield, okay. The reason now, so you did go through New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, right?
No, you go through what the Little E site is a designation in New York City, and New York City sites are possibly, when there's not a lot of contamination, taken care of through the New York City agencies rather than the state agency. Because it's got a Little E designation, that means the contamination, which it could be anything from noise, because of the train, they consider that to be a contamination. That is done through the New York City agency. It's not. It's a separate agency that will monitor the remediation at the site, other than the New York State agency, which, as you know, is called the Brownsfield program.
Right, right. So I guess so you're saying that there's not a lot of contaminants such as tin or arsenic or anything like that on the site that you have to remediate, right? When you're talking about remediation, you're talking about sound remediation, but if it's even in this little program that you're talking about, aren't there anything that you have to clean up? I mean...
There is some soil that has to be remediated, and there's the same thing that you would do with the Brownsfield. It's just of a lesser, there's not as much site that's been contaminated. So we have a company called Hydrotech Environmental. They come in, we've done the phase 1, we've done the phase 2, and they come in and they are the engineers that will set up a plan that gets presented to the Office of Environmental Remediation. That's the city agency. They have to approve it. Once they approve it, then all of the steps in what they call the work plan are then verified by the engineer in the process that we are going to do to clean up the site.
So normally when you do that with the state, you have to have, there's a community, there's a chance for the community to put their input in. Did you have that opportunity with this program? Does the community, outside of this board meeting, does the community have an opportunity to comment on any remediation that you're doing?
I don't know that New York City requires that. They have their engineers and they
Would
have...
you be open to doing that for the residents of this community?
I'm sorry, say it again?
Would you be open to doing that? And my last question is, you mentioned the work plan, phase 1, phase 2 work plans. Did you put that in any repositories, say like the one here or anywhere in the community? Your work plans?
Phase 1 and Phase 2 are what they call the soil testing.
I understand
Okay.
that.
Right, and then after that, the Hydrotech, the engineering company comes in, and they will analyze the information, and they have...
I understand that. My question is, the work plans that you are putting together right now, did you put it in a repository for members of the community at large to view?
The OER site is a public site. Our OER has not been approved yet. It will be on the New York City website, which is open for anyone to take a look at.
Excuse me, are you having the on-site security for this building? On-site security? On-site security for the building.
Do you mean, we may have possibly have a doorman, I want to call it a doorman, but maybe a lobby attendant. At this time, we haven't gotten that far.
Okay, I think I'm going to cut this. Before I do, any other board member have a question? I want to give everybody an opportunity. Okay, I want to thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. And I would ask you that you keep our district manager in the loop on everything you guys are doing so he can present it to the board, because we don't like surprises.
Okay, no problem.
All right? And we get very ornery when we hear it get surprised. And one thing I will ask you, sir, whoever's in head of the construction division, tell them to slow their trucks down. The speed limit in the city is 25, not 50. All right? You see them going across 233rd Street. You see them going across Nereid Avenue. You see them coming up Webster Avenue. There's no way that's 25 miles an hour. All right? Thank you. Okay, I guess our next presentation is going to jump. I'm sorry, presentation by Jump Bike.
You can bring it up here.
Yeah, well, you can put it up in front of the table. And we're going to raffle this off in a little while. You didn't leave the money in the box here.
All right. Hi, everyone. From buildings to bikes. My name is Kyle Thomas. I'm the Senior Operations Manager for Jump in New York City.
My name is Chris Walker. I'm the Operations Manager for Jump here in the Bronx.
So thank you for having us tonight. What we'll do right now is kind of walk you through a background of like what is Jump, where are we coming from, the current pilot program that exists in the Central Bronx right now, and kind of what the future potentially holds or what we hope it holds, and kind of like why we're here today. We have a 4-member team in kind of our operations management team. You can see Chris up here runs our Bronx operation, and our Tri-State General Manager there. I oversee both locations of the pilot right now, so we're operating in both Staten Island and the Bronx.
Is that Fordham, by the way? I don't mean to interrupt you. Is that the Fordham area?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So a little background into Jump as a company. So the company was actually founded in New York City, in Brooklyn, by a former member of the Department of Transportation in the biking division. So at that time, it was back when, the very early days, I think maybe pre-City Bike even, where, a lot of cities were talking about these docked systems, which require a lot of infrastructure investment. And his thought was, like, what if you could create the entire system, but just on the bike itself? And so that was kind of the genesis of the Jump bikes. So our service is bike share electrified. One of the really cool things about the bike itself is On the panel side, on the other side, you can see there's actually a black battery that's in that main part of the bike. So as you pedal, it gives you a slight e-assist, which opens up ridership to more people that may not, might have physical limitations, or, kind of like riding up hills and getting to where you need to go. Makes it a little bit easier and opens it up to more people. But we create both the hardware and the software. So that bike is like purely designed by our team, and the app that runs it is designed by our team too. So our goal is to take you further, get you there faster, and make every ride fun. So I talked about the e-assist portion of the bike. The bikes are governed at a max of 20 miles per hour. The city is also able to kind of like govern that, so we can change it at any time if they want to make it lower or whatever. But the really big feature of the bike itself is, unlike kind of your traditional, call it like city bike systems where you have to take it to a physical dock, these are dockless bicycles. And so what that means is you can take them and lock them to existing infrastructure, whether that's a street sign or a bike rack that exists, making it that much more convenient and making our operation far more nimble to be able to, so you can essentially take it home or near your home, and just essentially make the operation far more quick to adapt and adjust. So what makes us kind of different than other companies out there, one of the number one things is our lock-to design. So you can see on the back of the bike, and Chris, maybe you can show them on the bike. On the back of the bike, we have a locking cable that allows somebody to actually lock the physical bike to itself on a piece of infrastructure. So a lot of the dockless bikes out there just kind of have a tire clamp on the back. The nice thing about what that does is we do a ton of rider education as the person signs up, saying, hey, lock this to a piece of infrastructure. And by having that on the bike and kind of pushing them to lock it to something, it pulls it out of the pedestrian way and makes sure that people don't just kind of get used to leaving it wherever. We are also the first dockless e-bike share system in the US. One of the big things that we try to emphasize as well is our relationships with the community. So we've been talking to a bunch of folks across the Bronx, community boards, assembly members, council members, a ton of different people, the bid members and people like that, to kind of get feedback and understand kind of how this is operating currently, to hopefully become an integral part of the community itself. And then finally, we were the first American bike share business to partner with a ride-sharing company. So Uber actually purchased Jump last year in April. And so now you can rent the bikes directly through the Uber app. I know that a lot of the big questions around this is how much does it cost? So for 30 minutes on the bike, it's $2. After that initial 30 minutes, if you go past that 30 minutes, it charges you 7 cents a minute. So in total, if you were to ride for a full hour on the bike, it would be $4. So the nice thing about these is that with the pedal assist, you can get there further faster. And so really, as I'll show you, the number of people riding for that hour is very small. Most people get to where they're going within a handful of minutes. We also offer a boost plan, so folks that are NYCHA residents, Access Heat, NYC Heat, Utility Assistance, MTA Low Cost, Income Pass, and NYC SNAP. So if you qualify for any of those programs, if you kind of present your documentation, you get into our Boost program, which is an incredible value, which is it's $5 for the entire month. And for that entire month, every single day, you get up to an hour of riding on the bike itself, which again, because of the e-assist on the bike, an hour of riding can really take you quite a few places in the borough. And then finally, right now, we do have a very restrictive service area zone, and so we have to levy $25 fees on top of anybody who locks the bike outside of the zone, because we are not allowed to currently start trips and incentivize people to bring those bikes back in. So what does our current operation look like? So back at the end of July, or I guess in July, the New York City Department of Transportation sent out a request for interest for people or for companies to apply for their dockless bike sharing pilot. So Jump was one of those companies, and the DOT gave us 2 service areas. So the 2 service areas that they gave us were in the Bronx, in the central Bronx, and then in the North Shore of Staten Island. As a part of the pilot, they gave us a maximum number of bikes in each spot of 200. So we can only have 200 bikes in each of those areas. And the initial pilot period was 4 months. After that 4-month period ended, the DOT was able to extend us for 90 days for up to a year. We just got our final extension yesterday, or actually maybe today. And so the program will continue through the final portion of the pilot, but the pilot is set to end in August. The big thing, and kind of part of the reason why we're here today, is that the DOT has extended a request for expression of interest to apply for borough-wide expansion in Staten Island, but they have given us no indication as to their plans for the Bronx. And so we've been asking for expansion and things like that, and we've been trying to get community support for expansion, but at this time there's no indication there. And so I'll share some of the stats, but what we're hoping to have is a letter of support from the community saying that, they don't want the program to essentially like die and for it just to go to Staten Island, but for, the Bronx to get the expansion as well. So in the Bronx, kind of talking to the success of the program, it really is accomplishing what the program is designed to do. And especially in the Bronx and in Staten Island, which have kind of been like historically left out with a lot of these programs, we're seeing that it is completing that kind of like first mile, last mile trip. And so the majority of the trips that we have, so we've completed over almost 45,000 trips in the Bronx since last July. There are hundreds of people that use the bikes every week. I think that we had over 500 people a couple weeks ago. We had over 600 new people who used the bikes last week. And over 20% of the people that use the bikes every week use it at least 3 times, if not more, a week. And those rides, as I said before, are short. They're on average 2.3 miles and only last like 25 minutes. So when we look at where the destinations that those folks are going to predominantly, it's the train stations, it's the bus stops, and it's really acting as that connector between whether it's work and home or whatever, whatever that like final leg of transportation is for them. So here you can see where people are kind of starting their trips, and like the height as well as the kind of like largeness of the red circle is kind of like how many trips there are. The bigger the more there are. And you can see right now we're really kind of restricted to locking to the existing infrastructure. So a lot of these trips do start around the transit zones. But you can see it really kind of spreads really far out with people, whether it's coming home or whatever, ending their trips. Another big thing, and the number one complaint that we currently have, is that everybody wants to use the bikes not in this designated zone. And so you'll see on the outskirts of the service area a lot of lockups because people, once they get that $25 fee, will just ride it to the edge and lock it up there and then have to find their way some other way home. Okay, so I spoke a little bit about the future in New York City. So here's just kind of some graphical representations of what we've seen to this point. So the left, that's just 10 days in September where riders went during that 10-day period. So you can see, and this was like early on in the pilot, that people already, even though the service area is really small, were riding through the entirety of the Bronx. The middle image here shows the heat map of during that same period of where people were locking the bikes outside the service area. So there's a lot of demand for where people want to like actually take the bikes home. And then finally, this final image is all the people that were looking in the Uber app at the bike option. And so you can see that outside of the designated service area, there's a ton of people that are looking at that option inside the app and could potentially use it if it was there, but don't have that opportunity. So that's kind of the background of the company and our operation. We're happy to answer any questions. I guess one thing that we didn't cover, so Chris's operation, we have about 20 people. The majority, if not the vast majority of them, are local folks from the Bronx. Chris actually lives right down the street. And we have a warehouse on Southern Boulevard that we operate out of currently. So we have a staff of folks who are driving around, picking up bikes that need maintenance. They're doing the maintenance in the shop. In the future, they'll be swapping batteries out in the field so the bikes can stay out there as long as possible. So we do have like a very well-run local operation that's currently kind of servicing that central Bronx area. But happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I have a question. What's your theft rate?
So in the early days, pretty much every city across the country, we see it spike just because, it's just something new, right? But we've worked very closely with like the local PD. We've also built in a lot of tech, and the bikes themselves don't lend to a lot of theft. So it's not incredibly high.
Has a GPS in it?
Yeah, so every bike has a GPS, and Chris's team is like constantly out there, monitoring the bikes, checking them, bringing them back, doing repairs, things like that.
The reason I asked you that is because Yonkers had a great bicycle program, and one day all the bicycles vanished off the street. They just took them off because too many people were stealing them, and so they eliminated it up there. I don't want to see the same thing happen to here.
Yeah, and I think like one of the big things about our bike is that it doesn't, like I said, like you'll if you ride it or you feel it or you kind of push it around, it's a far more substantial vehicle than the majority of the bike sharing companies out there, and so that lends to they'll last longer out in the field, but B, it also kind of does make it harder to take, which is a good thing. So I hope that answers.
So what is Uber's investment into your company, Joe?
So Uber purchased the company. So we are a part of Uber now. What is fantastic about that is that a lot of the tools that we use day to day, we're not having to build from scratch. We're able to plug into that infrastructure that they've already built to do things like the data visualization, showing all the trips and things like that. And kind of using some of the insights that they've had in the past to apply that here.
Okay, thank you.
Sure,
Any members of the board?
I have a question. Accident insurance, in type, have an accident, who will cover me? Have an accident with one of your bikes?
Yeah, so we do have liability insurance that I can share with the group as well.
Who pays for that? Who pays for that?
I mean, it depends on the accident.
My car insurance? Use my car insurance?
If you drive the bike like you drive your car, we're in trouble. Anyway.
Okay. What I want to, you have a bicycle adjusters in case I get hit by an Uber? I mean, that's contributory negligence. Just asking.
Yeah, so we do, like I said, we do have insurance, and I can share like all the details of the policies and things like that.
Even though I'll be covered because I'm under the auspices of the New York City Housing Authority, and I'm only going to pay $5. Was it $5 a month?
Yeah, the Boost program. Yeah, all riders are
But
the
I
same.
get full coverage as it lends itself if there's an incident
Yeah,
of
I mean, number one, our number one concern with the program in general, and at Jump, at Uber, is safety. We, in many markets, especially like once we're expanding and we kind of have a firm foothold in that location, do things like free helmet giveaways, education about how to ride the bikes, bike riding courses, things like that. And those are all things that we're committed to do in the Bronx as well.
Okay, we'll take one more question. Well, the young man back there. Doctor, if his is a short question, I'll take yours.
First thing, does the bike have gears?
Yeah, so the bike has 3 gears.
And what happens if I rent a bike? Let's say is there a particular time limit that I can rent it for?
No, so that's the great thing about the bike is that you can rent it for the day, you can rent it for 30 minutes, however long you want to or you need to rent the bike.
So if I rent it for, let's say, an hour, nobody else can use it within that hour then?
Yeah, so we have a feature on the bike itself. So say that you were riding somewhere and that you needed to lock the bike up and then come back to it. There's a hold feature on the bike itself so that you can lock it to something, put it on hold, nobody else can rent that bike, and then when you come back, you scan it and then it unlocks again just for you.
That's exactly what we
Okay,
need.
thank you. Doctor, you got the last question.
I see you chose the middle of the Bronx. What about uptown? Whoever chose it. I've never seen this bike before. It's something. You seen it before? I've never seen it. And maybe I'm just driving.
So
They
we
don't
didn't
choose it.
Yeah, so we didn't choose the service areas. The DOT, after the applications were in and once we were accepted, we were served the service areas. And so that's like one of the biggest problems with the Bronx zone is that there's no natural boundaries. And so it's not clear to a rider who's riding down the street that they just left the zone. And so we do education within the application, but it would be far easier to say that it's a Bronx-wide system and you can use it anywhere inside the Bronx instead of, from one street to another street on the side of the botanical gardens. It's a hard message to send to the.
Thank you very much for
I do have a question.
Oh, you got George. You have a question? Okay.
So my question is, this is a dockless biking system. I've seen this in Staten Island. I've seen this in the Crotona area. My concern is we're a homeowner community. This is not like Manhattan where City Bike parks the bikes at a dock that have already been prearranged. In my district or in this community board, people are fanatical about trees, about parking, and about their sidewalks.
See?
You understand that somebody will ride the bike, get off in front of your house, and that's where the bike stays. I'm not saying that that's a bad problem. I'm just saying that that's the concern.
So
that's the reality of this program, is that somebody will ride their bike and say, okay, I'm done. And in front of my parents' house at 1207 Pugsley, there'll be a red bike.
So that is where...
Right in the middle of the sidewalk, by the way.
That is where Chris and his team come in. So we have a great customer service team. Again, to the point of kind of the benefits of Uber purchasing Jump, we do get to sync into the customer service team there. And so we have 24/7 phone support as well as email support. So the phone numbers are listed on every single bike. So if you were to come upon any of the bikes that are improperly locked, you call that number, that connects directly to Chris and his team, and he sends somebody immediately to go get that bike.
So you do that?
Yes.
Okay.
As far as how the rebalancing program works, I have a team of 20. I've got 5 vehicles, literally right now, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., going around removing bikes from where they're not supposed to be, placing them to some of our popular destinations in our service area. And then even when we started over in the summer, it's pretty busy throughout the entirety of the day. We were operating 24 hours a day during that.
I guess my final request will be there should be a disclaimer, especially for this community or the Bronx in particular. Again, we are a private home community that have driveways. People call this community board, even though I don't have any tow trucks, when people park their personal vehicles in somebody's driveway. Oh, George, somebody parked the car in my driveway. Can you call somebody? Whatever, I'll call Ghostbusters. My concern is somebody leaves a red bike on an elderly person's home, they're not going to be able to pick it up and move it because it might be a little too heavy. You said they're substantial bicycles. Again, the disclaimer should be there should be some sort of code of conduct that the riders are aware that, don't leave it in the middle of a sidewalk, don't leave it in front of somebody's steps when they're coming outside. Again, those are the only practical things that I think about. And if you do have a 20-person team, that you have the time frame, like a countdown clock, like I made this phone call at 5 o'clock, we'll be there by 6 o'clock to get the bike out of the way. That's my only concern.
Okay, that was the last question.
Just to add on top of that, you mentioned a little bit about education. So a little bit of what our team does as well. One, there's a phone number that'll be on the inside of the basket, so if that does happen to someone, they can call our customer service team. But then anytime that hits one of my leads on staff, they'll actually reach back out to customer service and have them give that rider a phone call just to let them know, hey, next time you ride, make sure that you actually lock it to a bike rack or other infrastructure.
I want to
like
thank
that.
you. We'll take up your request for a letter of support towards the end of the meeting.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll stick around. I have
Just-
cards out
just-
front as well.
Actually, just leave this in front of my house. It's okay.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, then, the next program is Good and Welfare Speaks. Ursula, you have the list?
I'm gonna do the list.
Yeah, would you please? Thank you. You can do the whole thing. Oh, good, it's very short. Praise the Lord, something's going on. I would ask all the board members, Mr. Hall, you especially, please take your seat.
I know he was gonna go crazy already.
Yeah,
They
right?
presented to us already. But I said we'd come back and show it to the board. Good evening, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
We have a short list tonight for the Good and Welfare.
We only have 4 speakers tonight, guys.
You got 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Ms. Desiree Campbell.
Hello and good evening, Community Board 12. My question is short and simple. So I'm a small business owner and I'm interested in purchasing property within our community. And I just wanted to ask the community board if they knew of any incentives to encourage, support, and or invest in local businesses, similar to Action and Credit Incorporated, which are major organizations behind the rise in local small businesses in the South Bronx. So the South Bronx is up and coming. Do we have anything here for our community, for our residents?
What type of business do you want to put in?
It would be a meeting space / event space. So really, it would have many uses, but primarily for the community. So we have local book clubs, we have local runners clubs, we have a lot of people who are doing things within our community that could benefit from a space to come and meet and gather and network.
I do believe there's vacant storefronts along White Plains Road. You have a couple on 233rd Street. I would recommend that you look in that area. I believe there's 1 or 2 on Gun Hill I saw. I mean, you know, there's quite a few businesses that couldn't make it, that they closed up. And like I said, just take a run down along White Plains Road or, you know, Gun Hill Road, even 233rd Street in the short distance there. You may find a location where it open. So would you know of any, Felix?
Not buildings, but rather organizations that offer support or investment options.
Would that be your committee? Nothing? No, we don't know of any.
You don't
right
know
now.
of any. And then also just to back up what you were saying, I have reached out to some of those people, and I don't know if the community board is aware, but a lot of these real estate companies purchase properties in our community, and then they don't want to serve the community. A lot of them say that they are holding out for franchise businesses. They don't want mom and pop shops. There are several storefronts and businesses that are just sitting there and have been sitting there for years, and they will not contribute or reinvest in the community. So just to put that out there, I don't know what we can do to step in front of that, but plenty of them are holding out for
George,
personal
do you
gain.
think Michael could help her out as the head of? Yeah, would you talk? Where is he?
No, but I can get his information if he's here. Okay.
Yeah, and she'll get you.
Okay. And who's Ursula?
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
George Diaz.
Good evening, everyone. Well, from this meeting, I actually have changed a little bit of what I was coming here to say. I would be very concerned about the Stag Group putting another development in this community. In the community where I live in the vicinity of Community Board 7. My neighborhood is Norwood. We have a number of projects that have come up from Stag. In fact, they showed pictures of a few of them today. at this meeting. And we have those issues where we're concerned about how they get flipped over. We also are concerned about how they manage the buildings. We have some buildings, they call them Bedford Manor, on Webster Avenue between 201st Street and Bedford Park Boulevard. We have these 3 buildings next to each other. There are a series of problems. If anyone here goes on Facebook, you can look at Bedford Manor Problems. There's a page on Facebook, and you have multiple videos about things that are going on in the community. So again, I would be very concerned about Stag Group. And when you wonder what's going on in the communities, why is it that developers keep coming back over and over against the communities? They're coming to Wakefield and the Wakefield area now. They've come into Bedford Park and Norwood in my community. And they even showing in, for example, Riverdale, which is another thing that they showed there. The developers, many of them are part of the Real Estate Board of New York, which is probably the biggest special interest in the state of New York, and in fact, even in the city of New York, as far as the contributions that they give to various elected officials in both city and state. And these are things we need to be concerned about. Why is this continuing to happen? Because elected officials sadly take money from these groups. This happens because what the state needs is a change in how elected officials can raise money. We need campaign finance reform. We have a version of it in New York City. I've been part of groups that have been fighting for this change in the state, but it has been blocked repeatedly. Part of that is, unfortunately, some of our local reps here that cover part of Board 12. One of them is a gentleman named Jeffrey Dinowitz, who's an assemblyman who is my assemblyman, and he covers part of Wakefield. He covers 233rd Street up to the border near where they want to do the project on Furman Avenue. But it's amazing how the lines are split along the way, where at one part of the street is Assemblyman Dinowitz, the other side of the street is Speaker Carl Hastie. Now, why does this stuff happen? It's because elected officials like to draw lines using the census that determine who they represent. And so they're not looking to appeal to the people. They want to decide who they represent. I think that's a problem. And that's why, in case anyone here doesn't know, 6 weeks ago, I made an announcement in the Riverdale Press. I've announced my challenge to Jeffrey Dinowitz for the 81st Assembly District. He's been there for 25 years. He's never had a challenger. And I'm running, and I'm just saying hello.
You can't do politics at the board.
You can't campaign here.
Okay, well, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
James Rather.
Good evening, folks. I'll be brief. I'm from Bronx City Planning Office. I'm your new liaison to the board. So if you have any questions about land use issues, zoning issues, I'm here for you. I know you have a lot to do tonight. I won't be long. We are looking at the area of Boston Road. You'll recall a few of us from the office were here earlier this year. We sat down with a bunch of folks, looked at what's going on around Baychester Avenue and Boston Road, thinking about the transportation issues there, thinking about the zoning. We're hoping to have something for you. Hopefully this fall we'll have some of what we found, some of the results we found looking at the area, thinking it through. That's all I have for you. I'm here for you. I can leave some cards with Ursula or George.
Yeah, can you bring some cards up here, please?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're in my bag, but I will leave some.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next speaker.
Yvonne Martin.
Good evening, everyone. Promise you I won't be long. But one of the questions that I want to ask you quickly is, what are some of the questions that keep you up at night? Do you worry about growing older, retirement, your finances, and things like that? I just want to let you know that I am a resource. I'm a financial advisor with Prudential. I take care of my neighborhood around here, right? Some of you probably know who Prudential is. They used to have offices in the Bronx, Riverdale, Co-op City, Bussing Avenue, but they have consolidated, like most companies, cutting back on cost. They have consolidated in the New York Financial Group. We are located in White Plains, New York, and we take care of our communities. Some of you probably have a life insurance policy put away in a safe, put underneath the mattress, put aside in a safety deposit box, and you have not looked at it for years. Insurance has changed, and so should your outlook be. And there are so many different benefits and up-to-date benefits that you can achieve from a life insurance policy now. Some of you are concerned about your retirement. Where am I going to put my money? What are my options? I'm retiring, I don't have coverage. What am I going to do with my retirement funds? I can be a resource for you. Okay, and I just want to let you know my availability. I have cards. If you have any questions, I'm available. Again, I'm a neighborhood person. I'm not even a stranger here. Right, Ms. Flood? Okay, have a wonderful evening, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you very much. That concludes Community Speaks.
That's the fastest community speak we had in about 5 years. So the next thing on the agenda is the district manager's report.
Good evening, board members. Happy May. Let's get right into it. Where's This is going to be good. So last month, the full board took the action of selecting a nominating committee to put a slate forward for next month's election for the executive officers of this board. That same night, someone who was nominated asked if they could withdraw from the nominating committee because they were interested in running for an executive position. They were told by another board member that that was not possible and that they had to fulfill their obligation on the committee. I was approached later the following week by another board member who were upset with the current direction and looking to challenge the current leadership of this board. Additionally, I was approached by an executive board member who said that they would not be seeking re-election to the executive committee. So, I called the borough president's office to confirm my thoughts and to let them know what was going on here. According to our bylaws, voted and approved on June 22nd, 2017, Article 5, Section 3, states anyone considering running for executive officer position must serve on the community board for 5 consecutive years. And this is where I'm not sure. Must also serve 5 consecutive years on a standing committee. My confusion is that this is not explicitly spelled out as an either-or choice. But here is the kicker. These rule changes have not been adopted yet by this board because that June 22nd vote only carried a 29-2 vote for approval. According to our bylaws in Article 10, titled Adoption, which is on the last page, these bylaws shall be adopted when approved by 3/4 of the appointed members of the board at the meeting of the board. 3/4 of our board on June 22nd, 2017, would have had to have carried 36 aye votes. That rule was not met on June 22nd, 2017. These rules were never adopted properly. I think this presents an opportunity for this board to revisit these issues and take a more proactive approach to remedying some concerns you have about the direction and leadership of this board that have been expressed to me in private. Until proper ratification, we will be operating under the older bylaws, which states anyone can run for office for a term of 1 year. There are no exclusions or prohibitions for executive officer of Community Board 12. Secondly, anyone that was selected to the nominating committee can run for and become an executive officer. The nominating committee shall consist of 5 members and can present more than one candidate for each of the executive offices to be filled at the meeting. Anyone may resign their commission by submitting in writing to the chairperson and district manager, meaning anyone that does not want to serve on the nominating committee, or any committee for that matter, should submit a letter of resignation. The resignation need not be accepted to become effective. All this brings me to my next point. As a district manager, I am tasked with running this office and making sure that we are meeting our obligations on an operational basis. Since August 2015, I've tried to get my house in order on meeting those obligations. It's been slower than I anticipated, but we are the only community board that is transparent in the Bronx by broadcasting and live streaming our full board meetings. We are getting better, and we will get even more better, if that's a thing. Considering everything I stated about our bylaws, it is evident that the board needs to take a serious look at itself and figure out the next steps. Ursula and I are willing to help. In that vein, I will codify in our new bylaws the relationship between the board and staff. There is a level of coziness that borders on inappropriate. Ursula and I are very accommodating, but we are not here to fetch you a cup of coffee or take you home. I know the borough president is fond of telling everyone that I serve at the pleasure of the board. That statement has limitations and does not ever mean that the board taking personal liberties with me or anyone on this staff. Please take seriously Ursula or I making a suggestion during a meeting, as it usually means that it will have to be revisited and remedied later. I was here Tuesday evening for a meeting and witnessed our Economic Development Committee with only one voting member present. The chair of that committee is going to make recommendations tonight on who should receive a liquor license. I'm not saying this to single out the chair or the Economic Committee out. This is actually endemic of all our committees. There was no quorum for that meeting. But the odd thing is, I don't know who sits on the committee. The last time the committee members was updated list was in January of 2012. This is the list. This list needs to be updated. I've long resisted injecting myself in the body politic of this board. However, I have an obligation to point out when things aren't done correctly, and that impacts what we do or what I do on a daily basis. This requires a little introspection on your part. Why are you here? What do you hope to accomplish? What is your purpose? If you want to make change, start with yourselves. Hold yourselves accountable. Accountability starts with attending committee meetings and the full board meeting. We have only 25 board members here tonight. We have 47 board members appointed to this board. Hold your fellow board members accountable. If you see something that you disagree with, say something about why you disagree. Always remember to be polite. Our disagreements should not be personal or derogatory towards one another. These disagreements should be debated on the merits of the policy and free from personal agenda and pettiness. We should be dedicated to the betterment of our community and each other. Remember, this is a city agency that has very specific tasks. Our responsibility is not to host back-to-school events or compete with other elected officials. Our responsibility is to do planning and zoning, the district needs statement on the city budget, and to be an ombudsman for this district. Finally, at our last board meeting, I mentioned district budget consultations on Saturday, June 22nd. I've not heard from anyone, so please confirm your attendance this evening, and please forward any questions that you have about the district. This will give me an idea on which agencies to invite to district budget consultations. And in conclusion, today marks my 1,390th day as your district manager, or 3 years, 9 months, and 21st day of my tenure here. I look forward to each and every day at the board. Thank you, and good night.
Is anybody from the borough president here? Okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Hello, everyone. How are you tonight? My name is Justin Sanchez. I'm the representative for the Bronx Borough President's Office. A few housekeeping items before I begin. All the reappointment applications. If you have not received your reappointment letter, it's because we have not sent them out yet. You should be receiving them in the next week, 2 weeks or so. Which leads me to the new appointments. If you have not received your appointment letter, it's because you have not yet been appointed. Those will be going out within the next month and a half. So if you haven't received anything by mid-June, then there's an issue. But you're good for right now. So, any questions on appointments or reappointments? Moving on. So, we just finished Bronx Week. It was really great. Yep, clap. So at Bronx Week, we named 3 new people to the Bronx Walk of Fame. We brought in Regina Spektor, the singer-songwriter. You may know her from doing the theme music for Orange is the New Black. She has a show on Broadway. She's a local Bronxite. We did the boxing champion, Iran Barkley. And we also did a planetary scientist who sends missions up to Saturn and Mars, and is really dope that she's from the Bronx, Carolyn Porco. So that was very exciting. Beyond that, we had a 2020 Census Complete Count kickoff at the Borough President's Office in the Rotunda. It is super important that you reach out to your friends, your families, your neighbors, documented, undocumented, and have everyone fill out the census. You'll be able to fill it out online. There are going to be community organizations from all over the Bronx helping you fill out the census. The more people that fill out the census, the more money that we righteously deserve will be coming to our districts. So please find the time. If you need help, we will gladly help you once that comes live in March. That is why we're starting to get ready now, because every single person that's counted is more money that comes to our districts because we need them. Beyond that, we appointed Lillian Perez from Montefiore to the Civic Engagement Commission, and we attended an anti-violence march on Grand Concourse. Tonight, they're currently breaking the fast at a Ramadan iftar dinner at the BP's office. But besides that, happy Memorial Day. Welcome to summer. Any questions, comments, concerns? Alrighty.
Thank you. Give the best to the BP for us. Next on the agenda is report of the chairman. Since the chairman is not here tonight, and I'm the first vice chair, and he didn't give me any report, I can't give you a report. There's none in my hands, so that'll speed things up even further. So the next thing on the agenda is report of the nominating committee. To speak on what George had mentioned today, the nominating committee has not met this past month to nominate anybody for the June elections. So I'm going to ask them to meet between now and the June meeting and come up with their nominations for the executive board. Number 2 is anybody, after they make their nominations, and there's somebody else that feels they want to be nominated, they can be nominated by somebody from the floor. It will be, as we do every time we have an election, we take nominations from the floor if somebody desires to run. Yes, Felix?
Senator, those are the Greens. Something to say on that. You have to come in.
I'm sorry.
The Green has something to say about the nominating committee. You can have them come in. Let us all know.
What does she have to say about it? What do you have to say about the nominating committee? That's all. She told me when I came in.
Potential people on the nomination committee that want to resign, so that this way somebody else can fill that position.
They can run even, according to what George says, even though they're on the committee, they can nominate themselves.
Okay.
All right?
So then nobody needs to come off the nomination committee.
Right.
Somebody want to take my position?
Okay, now we'll go to committee reports.
I could go first.
Okay, You want to go? Do you have anything, Parks? Yeah, I'll let Parks go.
You go ahead, hit it. Yours is long?
Well, you know
You
what?
need a vote?
I do need a vote.
Okay, so let's
Go
do
ahead, go to the long one. Go to the
Okay,
long
let's
one.
First committee is Parks.
Good evening, community, board, and constituents. I'm Ivan Boris, Parks and Environment Chair. I want to start by saying the reason why my report is going to be long is because we weren't able to report last month. So you're going to have 2 reports plus any other meetings that we attended. On April 16th, the Parks and Committee attended a meeting for the proposed Shore Road Bridge, also known as the Pelham Swing Bridge, along with CB12's very own George Torres. Brief reference for those of you that may not be familiar with its name. This is the drawbridge on the Hutchinson River that enables boats to pass right before you entered Orchard Beach or City Island. The bridge is over 100 years old and is in dire need of repair. This was a joint meeting with developers, architects, community constituents, and representatives from Community Boards 10, 11, and 12. Proposed was 3 bridge concepts, along with the pros and cons for each. The options were as follows: a slightly higher drawbridge that would be the least disruptive to the parkland and traffic, a moderately higher bridge that would moderately affect parkland and traffic, lastly, a high bridge that would eliminate the function of a drawbridge with more effect to the parkland and traffic during its construction. One concern of mine was the potential of increased marine traffic in the future and how it would affect the vehicular traffic on the Hutchinson River. In response to my concerns, we were told that there has been an increase in boat traffic during the past 10 years, which has led to this increase of bridge openings and resulted in increased traffic on the Hutchinson River Parkway. Upon doing my own research, as per NewYorkCity.gov, this bridge is by far the busiest of all the city-owned drawbridges. Manager George Torres and I both felt if we're going to rectify our current issues, we should carry it out to the extent of all problems would be as minimal as possible for the future. Therefore, I personally recommend and would like to see a high bridge so that this way boats could pass through freely without disrupting vehicular traffic, even though this type of project would take longer to complete. This bridge is still in the planning stages, and I was personally pleased to see the city collaborate with the community in these early planning stages, rather than overhaul us with its plans without community input, as we have seen time and time again. I must say it was nice to collaborate with the neighboring community boards by looking past manufactured jurisdictions and put the whole community's best interest first.
I have a question.
Sure.
How come the chair of transportation wasn't at, and capital project was not at this meeting?
I don't want to answer for Ursula, but I'm sure there was it was actually
This was the one
it was
over
actually
at-
it was actually emailed. It was actually emailed out to the board, and I actually responded.
I did.
and
I was
actually
running
attended.
late. I think I missed that meeting. I was running late for that meeting.
Okay, because it's important that he be involved in it.
Right.
Since he is head of capital projects, which this is, and also transportation, which is, the bus line runs over that, so, but I can understand what
Right,
happened with the
for me-
email. I'm not.
No, no.
Yeah.
Believe me, I will never put the blame on you. You're one of our best committee chairmen. But the point is, we should make sure that if any future meetings are held, that he is at them.
I think I was notified.
Yeah, all right?
So it was for me. It was for by invitation, and I just took the
Well,
took the invitation.
actually, George should have followed through and called him to find out if he was going.
Okay.
He did.
So our next meeting was on Saturday, May 11th. I'm elated to report the grand opening of our newly renovated and beautiful Agnes Hayward Park. This park is a true testament of our community's potential, with a soccer field, outdoor workout equipment, basketball courts with fiberglass backboards, an actual digital scoreboard, and the list goes on. I was commissioned to participate in the ribbon cutting ceremony. I was humbled by this invitation. It was my first ribbon cutting experience.
Was the scissor tough?
Yeah, I got. You know, we've been working on a lot of parks, and they're going to be opening very soon in the near future. So I'm really looking forward to holding those gold scissors again and opening up some more parks in our community, which is also a highlight of our community's efforts and our greatness. The committee met on May 16th. The agenda was to bring both parks and sanitation representatives for collaborative interest. We wanted to address discrepancies on areas which were not being tended to or lack thereof, especially where sanitation and parks jurisdictions meet across, such as the staircase on Gun Hill Road and in other areas. I mean, if you've seen these areas,
They're desperate.
They're in desperate need of maintenance. Thank you. Okay. The committee intent was to hopefully open the line of communication between the two city agencies. The meeting was scheduled to accommodate sanitation, but for the whole year, yet again, sanitation failed their commitment of attendance. And I've reported this in my previous reports. Nevertheless, our committee meeting continued with the gracious attendance of Community Board 12 Parks Manager Matt Doran. I wanted to share with you guys, I observed a young man on the news who set out to fix his neighborhood basketball court, and he intended to hold events where he could raise money to go towards fixing the his neighborhood basketball court. Admiring his advocacy, I thought, why not Community Board 12? The committee expressed interest in raising funds for specific community entities, such as for a specific park in which the community may want to repair or make accommodations. Through inquiry, we found that the bureaucratic system of New York City, which was also mentioned tonight by one of our speakers, does not allow this to happen. In an example, where a community takes the initiative to raise funds for their local park to get, let's just say, a scoreboard, the money raised would have to go to a specific city agency so the project could be overseen. Not openly revealed is how potential raised funds are given to city agencies, which goes into a general fund, then distributed at the agency's discretion, and not necessarily the communities that actually did raise the money. This may be common knowledge for some, but I felt there was a need to shed light on this. Such bureaucracies as this not only enables disenfranchisement, but creates lack of equity and investments for our communities. Moreover, the potential of economic discrimination. We should not have to beg our elected community officials at every time we are in need of something for our community. Okay? And in turn, so that they receive our vote. The committee is requesting for the board to write a letter to the mayor demanding change or new implementation of community capital process, allowing the community to have more authority and voice in what the community chooses to invest with their fundraising. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I do need a vote.
Do you need one or two votes?
I just need one vote for a letter to the mayor.
Okay.
And looking over our capital process, or how the capital process is carried out.
I would ask all the board members not to leave till we're able to take that vote because it's very important.
I'm leaving.
And he has done a great job. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have a
Yes.
question. Ivan, is this report a written report that you were giving us?
Yeah, it is a written report.
And he will
I'm going
submit
to
it.
address that, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, John, you have a report?
Yes, I do. Good evening, everyone. Last Thursday, May 16th, Transportation and Capital Improvement and Public Safety, we met with Jump Bikes, and we actually invite them out tonight to present to the board. We actually felt, and we love the Jump Bike program, and being that we're going in a direction where the community needs to become more green, and we're going to connect our hubs in the community to recreational facilities, we felt that this would be an improvement in the community. You know, I work in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, and I actually see the bikes and the way the people operate with a bike over there. Personally, I don't ride a bike, but I actually think it would be a great idea that if you could take one of those bikes on Pelham Parkway and ride to the Orchard Beach and you could enjoy yourself. The bike moves pretty fast, 20 miles an hour because it's power assisted, but I actually like the features that comes with it, that once you disembark from the bike and you I guess log off from the bike, it actually goes back into the pool, and in the Uber app it literally tells you where the bike is and you could go and pick it up and you could use it. If something is wrong with the bike, it literally sends a signal to these guys and they will come out and pick up the bike and service it, whatever. So I actually think it's cool that we could have this in our community. So we're actually asking for a vote to get a letter to recommend that they extend the program to the Northeast Bronx so that our kids and our families could use it, this facility that they're bringing to us.
Thank you, John. Any other committees have a report? Housing.
Yes. Just to keep it simple, housing is going to be June 11th, and I would like the first vice chair
I'd be there.
to be on hand. at
What time is your meeting?
6:30, right here at 4101. Remember that June 11th. All right? Also,
What day of the week is that, by the way?
it's a Tuesday.
Okay. we should-
Right, and I also want to take this opportunity to thank those individuals who showed up. Those individuals who showed up at the Eastwood to celebrate this award ceremony given to myself and the chairman, Bill Hall. What was had by all, I just want to thank those who supported that event. Okay? Thank you.
Any other, I know you have, we'll go with library first, and then we'll go with you, Felix, all right? Somebody have a mic for her?
Okay, I am Joan Claude, Chair of the Library and Cultural Affairs Committee. On Saturday, May 18th, the Library and Cultural Affairs Committee, we had our event on mental health issues. We had a great panel, which consisted of a social worker, psychologist, a nurse, a New York State judge, her son, who is a peer counselor and a mental illness survivor, and we had a therapist. These individuals are very knowledgeable in dealing with mental illness on a daily basis in their respective careers. People were quite receptive to the information given, and many had their questions answered, while others joined in the conversation and also shared their experience with mental illness. I believe people left there feeling empowered and educated in dealing with mental health issues and concerns. Some have even requested a follow-up, which is being considered. The turnout was admirable, but as usual, lacked the support of community Board 12 members. My thanks to the few board members who attended, and you know who you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm not done.
Oh, you done? I'm sorry.
not done.
Oh, you thanked everybody. I thought you were finished.
No, I didn't thank everyone. Special thanks and gratitude to the committee members, Sadie Campbell, Evelyn Christian, Lisa Hayes, and Angelica Rivera. And I must point out that Ms. Rivera is not a member of the board, but she's a member of the committee. And anyone who desires to be a member of the committee to join us, you can talk to me after this. That's my report. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's go. You're up. That's Felix Rodan, head of the Business and Economic Committee.
Good evening, everybody. I'm the chairman of the Economic and Business Services Committee. And like George said earlier, yes, my meeting this past Tuesday, it was just me and one other member. That is it. But a little note that I want everybody here to understand. For a whole year and a half, I ran the committee by myself. I tried, we couldn't get any members, and for a whole year and a half, I did everything. So it doesn't bother me when they don't come in. In my reports, every time I fill out my report, I make sure I put down there who was excused and who wasn't. It is the executive committee and the district manager to do something about that, not me. I cannot remove anybody from this board, but the district manager, he can. And I have a report that I give out every week, every month, that they read, and he should know better than to actually try to blame me when he's not doing his job. Okay? Well, this past Tuesday, I had to see 6 different businesses. 4 of them, which is, everybody says 222 bar, it's really called Deuces. It's called Deuces. Deuces. I thought it was that way also. And they corrected me Tuesday. Deuces. I thought it was triple deuce. It's Deuces.
So they need 2-2 bar.
LaRue's Catering Hall was the other one, the other business that came in. Hotspot Grill and Jerk Incorporated was the 3rd one that came in. And BD Equities, also known as Peppers. Of these 4 committees that came in, 1, 2, 3 of them, yeah, all 4 of them, I requested the board to inform Ursula to put them on the list for another meeting so they can come back next month. I spent the day today at SLA for one of these businesses. And after being there half a day, they also recommended that I come back with that business. And I've been getting in touch. I got in touch with their lawyer, and he's going to get in touch with the owner of Deuces, and we will, all of us, be at SLA next week, no problem. But I do need Ursula to reschedule them for next month.
Okay, just talk to Ursula. She'll do what she can for you.
Okay. The other business that came in was Stacy Bonner. She was asking for an on-premise liquor license. Like I mentioned before, an on-premise liquor license is a full liquor license. The committee decided not to approve this license.
Okay.
That reason, I cannot give it today because SLA would like to talk to me about that one more time.
Okay. And the second one there?
And the last one, which was Numero Uno Sabor Latino Restaurant, I want them also rescheduled because the person who came in was the owner's grandmother.
The owner's who? Grandma?
The owner's grandmother. We couldn't do anything because it has to be either the owner, manager, or their legal.
Yeah, lawyer. Yeah.
Or their lawyer. Yep. So I told the grandmother to go back and inform her granddaughter what's going on. She said she would have to wait till next week because she's on vacation and sent her.
Okay. Thank you very much. So you recommend the first 4 that you mentioned be
which would be 222 bar or Deuces.
I think of ballerina when you say 22.
LaRue's Catering Hall, Hotspot Grill and Jerk, and BD's Equities, also known as Peppers. Just to give you an idea, Hotspot Grill presently has a business. They're also planning to take over Peppers. And there's a few questions came up, and I mentioned it to SLA, and that's one of the reasons why they want to see me also again. I spent half a day today at SLA. That meant my son-in-law, I had to tell him to skip work because he had to stay home and watch the 3 kids. Because normally I'm the one who takes care of my three grandkids.
God bless you.
But today he had to come in and do that while I spent the whole morning, part of the afternoon at SLA.
I hope SLA gave you a good drink.
It wasn't easy, believe me, because once they have an idea in their heads, it's impossible to make them change their minds. But I went there with a stack of papers about that thick and threw it on the desk and says, take a look and then answer again. And after they read them, they said, Mr. Roldan, you have to come back again, because we definitely got to sit down with their lawyers also.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to vote. First of all, we need to take a vote. Anybody outside from the board, Robert Hall and friends, we're going to take a vote here. Well, who's out there? All right, you know what? Let's count how many people are here. And I'm going to tell you, this is what the problem is. You serve on the board, and then you leave early or you come late. The key is, I said there was going to be a long meeting because we had an irrelevant presentation that should have been done someplace else before here. We can't leave. I mean, this gentleman worked his nose off going down to SLA and everything to try to get so we can vote on something. Okay, can the secretary count?
Mr. Chair, what 2 projects are we voting on?
I'm sorry? I'm sorry?
What projects are we voting on?
I can't hear you.
What projects are we voting on?
We're voting on his report.
Okay.
All right, do we have a quorum?
I have to call out the names.
Well, I'll tell you, we're going to call out the name to approve his report. You can say yes, no, or I abstain, and then we'll know how many people we have here by who we called out. If we don't have a quorum, then... Okay, call the roll, please. This is to approve the committee report of my friend over here.
Franklin Alapo. Judith Benitez, aye. Igeri Bennett, not present. Hillary Broomfield, not present. Ivan Boraz.
Aye.
Carla Basardi. Aye. Victor Brown. Reverend Deacon Brown. Thank you. Norbert Bryan. Dr. Michael Burke.
The report, approve the report, yes.
No, just the report.
Just the report.
Just the report.
Sadie Campbell. Board members, would you please speak a little bit louder? Because you're talking like a whisper and I can't hear you. Evelyn Christian. Gail Clark. Joan Claude. Robert Cumberbatch. Tolene Dickerson. Laura Eastman. Kevin Eckelbecker. Raymond Evans, not present. Alfredo Figueroa, not present. LeGrant Barber Gibson, not present. Chantal Green, not present. Robert Hall.
Aye.
Lisa Hayes. John Isaac.
Aye.
Theodore James, not present. Where's Theodore? Hi, Theodore.
He's been quiet
Carl,
tonight.
Carl Lozano. Lucille Martin. Walter McNeil. Not present. Clinton Mikey. Thank you. Carmen Ortiz, not present. Frank Porter. Claudia Powell. Dr. Dina Roberts. Felix Rodan. Icy Mae Thomas. Salke. Absent. Okay, thank you. Carl Stricker.
Aye.
Shirley Kirkwood Cole, not present. Nicole Ware. Not present. And Norma Wiles. Not present.
All right, count the votes.
Gee, really? Ayes have it.
Okay, and how many votes did we have?
We had 25.
I'm sorry?
25.
25, so we're good. Okay, the next vote is on the recommendations of Phillips Committee on 4 bars. 2 are new and 2 are renewals, and they are 2222 Bar and Grill. Naturally, it's on 222nd Street. La Rousse Catering Hall, which is a renewal. Hotspot Grill and Jerk, which is new. And BD Equities LLC, doing business as Peppers, renewal. So we're going to take a vote, aye or nay or abstain. Now, we can make this a little faster. Who wants to change their vote from the last? Okay, we have the doctor back there.
What are we changing it to?
It's changing a nay. Okay. Mr. James is abstaining.
Mr. who?
James.
Okay.
Okay, any other changes? You abstained, Deacon? Thank you. The Deacon is abstaining. You too, Dr. Robbins? Dr. Robbins is abstaining.
Is Victor Brown abstaining or saying nay?
Lisa
They're
Hayes.
abstaining.
Both of you is abstaining?
Yes.
The deacon and,
Lisa Hayes is abstaining.
you say nay?
Okay.
That's all I can.
Lisa.
Lisa is, what are you, a no or a abstain?
And Ivan.
Nay? She's a nay.
Ivan.
I abstain.
Okay, so
And I abstain.
the ayes still have it, so a letter will go out in support of the 4. Now, the next one I consider extremely important. First of all, we have to accept the report of parks. So, and let's take a vote. Is everybody in favor of accepting the parks report? Okay, so that's unanimous. Now we have to vote on the letter that he wants to write to our illustrious mayor on how they come with the funding. You want to make the motion? I'll figure we send it to Iowa. Maybe we'll get a result.
So, I'd like to make a motion for the community board 12 to write our illustrious mayor a request in changing our capital process and our personal funding, in our personal personal funding.
Yes, right. Okay, and you have a second?
Second.
Okay. So everybody in favor, say aye. Aye. Any nays?
Absolutely.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll CC it to all the local elected officials that impact us. Or we can send it to the whole council, I don't care. Personally, I feel we should send it to the whole council.
Well, I mean, I was thinking more along the lines of our, officials in our community. More of a time to your point, I think it's an amendment to my friendly amendment.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, to send it to the entire council.
Okay, so everybody's still in favor of the motion? Okay. So we'll just, that'll go. Now, we have one other motion for transportation. Jump. You want to jump?
Jump.
I would like to make a motion that we send a letter to DOT supporting the JUMP program and the JUMP bike program, I should say.
I second.
Second.
Okay. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, to committee members, committees, I was asked by the chair to mention to you that when you file a report, it has to be in writing, so in case somebody challenges your report down the line, we have a record of what your report said. So all future committee reports should come in writing. All right? I thank you for that. And let's see what we have left here. And the old business. Yes, Doctor.
We need to acknowledge the elected officials, the representatives of the elected officials.
That's right.
So, I'm here to raise Cain about B&B Urban again. Just to let you know that we were supposed to talk to the Land Use Committee, and we haven't. And a couple of meetings ago, we talked about legal action, and we haven't. And so I just want to keep putting it, B&B Urban, on, I want to keep putting them on notice that there are certain members of the board that are vehemently opposed to the project, okay? In particular, with the 30% mentally ill homeless families that they want to bring in. And the reason that I say that is because I have seen now, particularly with the diversion center that is further down White Plains Road, I've now seen some of those mentally ill people that have not only trickled onto Tilden Street, but I actually saw one person was actually almost got hit on Allerton Avenue right by the diversion center in the middle of the road right by the White Castle. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, by the White Castle and the BP. And this is what happens when you're bringing these people into our communities. And what happens is, just like the groups that we saw tonight, JCL and the STAG groups, once they do their presentations, they leave and we're stuck.
Right.
And so I just want to put that, B&B Urban, no, no, no. And I just want to put that on the record.
I will tell you that Housing and Land Use is having a meeting.
That's exactly why I went on June 11th for the first vice chair. Oh, I'm sorry. That's why I remarked that I want on June 11th, the first vice chair to come to our housing meeting to discuss the as-of-right process as it lends itself to this type of situation. Possibly, and I can't say only possibly, not probably, we can look into adverse effects as it lends itself to this process. However, the way it stands, B&B Urban can still go forward, and we can't do but so much about it. All right, an injunction would be something that you could look at down the line. However, it is in our best interest to speak to experienced bodies, which is why I asked the first vice chair to come, because we cannot get the land use because there's not a voting mechanism in place regarding this. So respectfully, I think that's what we need to do. But it's an education process. Your point is well taken. But now, as I just told the district manager, they're looking for a letter stating, because there was a lot of adversity, the bottom line is we're going to go forward. You can do a letter. We need to construct some type of letter regarding this. They know there's been a lot of adversity. They just had a ribbon cutting yesterday, and I spoke to the chairperson of Board 7, and that's why she kind of familiarized me with the stag person coming in here, all right? But that being said, I think that's the best way for us to get educated on the process and the problem as it lends itself to B&B Urban.
Okay, thank you.
We can't throw them away.
Right, thank you so much,
Yeah,
Mr.
no,
Hall.
Bob and I have been talking about this to try to get something
Yeah, okay,
together.
I just want to put it on the record for not only for us, but for the community as well, that we are against these guys, and they have done
Yeah, they
everything.
have to understand that.
Understand, I mean, they're extremely duplicitous, as well as some of these other people, in wanting to come in here and trying to pull the wool over our eyes. And I just wanted to put it on the record, and now that I know that we're against it, so we're on the same page.
But yet and still, we have to go forward to commit, but we're committing with our negativity aspect because we don't like the process, and that's what we're referring to.
That's what we're going to work on.
All right?
Okay,
And put these other stag and the other individuals
All of
coming
them.
in. Everything needs to come to our housing committee so that we can witness it and deal with it first, and then land use could tear them apart. But that's what needs to happen.
Okay. I'm thank you, Mr. Hall. Thank you, Mr. Stricker, for, again, I just want to bring that to everybody's attention.
We would never ignore you, Doctor. It's just that we just have to get it together. You know?
Not a problem. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask my friend to my left here to read elected officials. Are you here tonight? Oh, Mary Ann? Oh, I'm sorry, Mary Ann. I didn't see you on my calendar. Okay, Mary Ann, my apologies to you.
Okay, no problem.
I didn't mean to keep you up late.
That's all right. It is past my bedtime, but I'll do my best. I just have three very quick announcements. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock a.m. at 250 Broadway, there's a joint Senate and Assembly public hearing on sexual harassment in the workplace. Senator Biaggi is one of the chairs, or is the chair of the Ethics Committee, and will be one of the people running the hearings. They're open to the public, and they're also live streamed. You could probably find it either on the nysenate.gov website or the nyassembly.gov website. There was a hearing already up in Albany. This is the only one that's going to be held in New York City. Again, that's on sexual harassment in the workplace. I'd also like to announce an upcoming Housing Justice Town Hall event, which will be with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Senator Biaggi, Jamal Bailey, and Natalia Fernandez's office. That's on May 30th at the Sands at 815 Allerton Avenue. They're going to be talking about the renewal of the rent laws and other housing laws that are proposed in the state legislature. And then our office is also doing a housing resource fair on Friday, June 7th. We're bringing a lot of agencies, legal aid, legal services, and also city agencies and other organizations that work on housing issues for both homeowners and tenants. And that will be on Friday, June 7th from 4 to 7:30 at PS 83. So there are flyers out around the corner, and if folks have questions, feel free to reach out to our office. Thank you.
Thank you, and I congratulate you for staying so long. I mean, you tell...
I hung in there. I thought these were important announcements.
You tell
so.
Ms. Biaggi, we really appreciate it that you stayed long to tell us, and I apologize for not calling you before.
Sure, no problem.
I just wanted the date for the Sands. What's that date again?
Oh, the May 30th Town Hall event with AOC and Senator Biaggi, Jamal Bailey, and Natalia Fernandez is Thursday, May 30th at 7 p.m. at the Sands, which is 815 Allerton. And then the other event, the Housing Resource Fair, which will be followed by a town hall, is Friday, June 7th. The flyers are just around the corner with more details.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you again.
Have a good night. Sure, thank you.
New business, I just want to be absolutely clear. This community board just voted for 222 Bar to receive a liquor license? No. Okay. That's what we understood. Can I get the vote on that? Because that's not what...
No, we did.
You did vote to support
Yes.
it.
No, the board voted. The ayes were over the nays and abstains.
Okay. Let me just point out, I think that this is an example of the pettiness that I was talking about. The community has long objected to the two bars on East 222nd Street when they were Expressions and African Last Stop. The precinct went so far as to come to us and to say not to recommend this. SLA, the state liquor authority, came to us and said, please don't approve this. You just approved it. I mean, I just want everybody to be clear. This is where it impacts my job because I am responsive to the people like Freda that live right behind on Gunther Avenue, behind African Last Stop, who is complaining to this day. That place doesn't even have a liquor license, and they're still operating under temporary liquor licenses for parties that have to get busted up by the police. But this community board just approved it. I just want to be absolutely clear.
Well, no.
Chairman. Hold on. When we put this vote to a vote, the four names that came up in that process was 222, La Rousse, Spot Grill, and Beatty Equities. Two of those items, 222, Hot Spot Grill, were under SLA investigation. But in calling it to our point of voting for something, those are the four names that came up. So that is why I'm saying that there's a lot of us said abstentions or said no because those two names were in that group.
All right, but we took the vote.
No, Lisa, you got to speak into the mic.
Okay, so good evening. I apologize, but I think what I was trying to do, why I just abruptly stood up, is because there was no point of clarity as to what we were doing. I would go so far to ask that going forward, if we can separate our liquor license votes so that we are clear on what we are voting on and what we're not. I'm sorry, no offense. This is from a very loving place, but again, to George's point, we want to make sure that we are representing the community as we are the community members. That's all. No, there's no problem. And so, actually, there is one. I would like if we can do a revote. If we can all do a revote. I don't know. Point. I move that we revote. There we go. I move that we revote for the liquor licenses.
It's not going to happen.
Can I get a second? Thank you.
First of all, you got to respect the chairman of the committee's report.
The mic.
Nobody voted on any license. All we voted for was for them to be rescheduled to come in again. Because I spent the day at SLA today, and they recommended that me and 222 go together and sit down with their lawyers.
Mr. Roldan, as my cousin has said, and I'll say this too, you know that I respect you and what you do, and in particular, now knowing that you're doing it by yourself, that's admirable. I think and again, I can only speak for me and on this, but I think the problem is that what we want is economic development and not liquor licenses all the time. And this is how I feel. And I know that it was mentioned a couple of meetings ago that, it seems like that's what we do, and what we really want is real economic development. And I think, and that's not a slight to you, Mr. Roldan, that's just saying that, for instance, a bid, a business improvement district or something like that is what we really want. So I think that's why if you notice, I always vote no, and it's not that I don't like you, because I like you personally, that's why I approve your reports, and then I always vote no when it comes to the liquor licenses. So that, again, I can only speak for me, Mr. Roldan. I can't, my cousin said what she had to say, and all the others, but that's what I'm saying. So I think that's what, yeah.
The easier, a little bit, White Plains Road has gotten together since what? Going on 2 years now. We have been working on a bid. We're going to be the longest bid in New York, 2.5 miles from 242nd to Gun Hill. That's going to be the longest bid in the city, 2.5 miles. That's what we're working on, and we're damn close to getting it. The other merchant association we have is not going anywhere. The only merchant association that is going somewhere is the one on White Plains Road. So aside from the liquor licenses, that comes up, but I'm forever coming in here and doing walkthroughs on White Plains Road. And I actually see these businesses. I walk into these businesses. I tell them about their music. I make sure they try to keep it down. And believe me, some of these businesses, I wouldn't walk into them to buy anything. And I'm actually having them clean up also, because they got to attract people. They're not going to attract people there with music blaring the whole damn time, and the place filthy. I'm there always. It seems like all I'm doing is liquor licenses, but that's what comes in. That's what comes in here. But all the other things that I have to do, believe me, you have no idea how often I walk up and down White Plains Road.
I mean, you've stated that, Mr. Roldan, and so that's why I say that it's not, because I know that you're doing what you have to do. I just wish, I did not know that, you were doing this by yourself. But I mean, I hate to say I shouldn't be surprised, but, again, I think that's what, if we know about this and maybe we can, help you out in particular, especially when it comes to this bid, because I know that's something I want to see. That's something you want to see, and I'm certain that's something most of the board, as well as the community, wants to see. So, just let us know. Thanks, Mr. Roldan.
Thank you there, Doctor. Doctor. Okay. That was, let's see. That's it. Do we have any new business? Yes, call.
Thank you. I may be totally mistaken, and I hope I am, but I'd like it clarified for the record. I'd like to address what George was talking about, the bylaws. If I remember correctly, in June, we took a vote on new bylaws. It was approved 29-2 by us and had to be certified by the
36
Bronx Borough Office.
But, yeah, Tom Lacania's office.
Right. But if we needed only 36 votes, then here are my questions. If we needed 36 votes to pass it and only 31 members were here, why was the vote taken in the first place? Why was it printed and sent as if it was approved? And why are we hearing it for the first time today?
That's what I like to know. Thank you.
You're hearing it for the first time today because, like I mentioned in my report, several people came to me privately and expressed a dissatisfaction with the direction of the board, and they were told certain inaccuracies that I had to look at the bylaws. Listen, from the beginning that I've gotten here in August of 2015, I never read this. I really didn't. It's not my job. I don't interject. As you notice, when you guys have a board meeting, I disappear. I deal with the constituents in the hallway, and I do my job back there. I don't intervene. I've always paid respect to the board that way. But like I said, a lot of people came to me. I said, let me give it a look. Let me see what the rules are. Because again, certain inaccurate statements were made. I called the borough president's office. He said X. He said, but you have to read your bylaws. So after speaking to Tom, I read the bylaws. It's right here. Section 1, Article 10, Adoption. On the very last page. These bylaws shall be adopted when approved by 3/4 of the appointed members of the board at the meeting of the board, the agenda for which shall have included consideration of the bylaws. They shall take effect upon filing with the City Planning Commission pursuant to Section 4.042 of the Uniform Land Use Review procedure. My statement, again, is not a reflection of Felix. Felix can't do this job alone. We have 11 committees. I have other board members that come to me to complain about another committee. And then every time we have that committee meeting, those board members that complain to me don't show up at that meeting. I mean, it's the biggest irony in the world. So I sit here and I say, listen, don't complain to me. You are all technically my bosses. You should complain to the chairman. Your chairman's not here this evening. Again, I read this. I said, for shits and giggles, I asked Ursula for what the vote was. She gave me the vote. I said, we didn't even adopt the damn rules. And this is what I'm talking about. We are better than this. We are better than this. I've spent 4 years so far, 3 years, 9 months, getting this board up to snuff, so that to the point that we can actually be better. We can actually be the best board in the Bronx in getting outreach and communicating with our constituents. There's a reason why we do Facebook Live, and there's a reason why we're on Channel 67 on BronxNet. But it's not here for you as chair people to say, oh, well, I'm gonna do it because I'm the chairperson, or I'm gonna recommend something because I'm the chairperson. This is almost like the Trump presidency. I'm the president, so I get to do whatever I want. I get to break down the norms of what's going on. These are the norms, and there are inherent things that need to happen that are not happening right now. And I'm just pointing it out.
George, I wasn't faulting you for telling us. I was faulting the board because it's their responsibility. We should have been told by the board the month after that it was an illegal
Well, the thing is,
vote.
he says it's illegal. It was a 29-2 vote. If you only had 31 people here, how can you get 36 members to vote?
That's my question. But where was the Bronx Borough President's office?
When Bill,
They had to approve it too.
you know, I have to stick up for Bill in this case, because he called Tom LeCania, which is the same person that George supposedly talked to, and he told him, we voted last night, he gave him the vote, and it's legit. He asked, and he was told, yes, the bylaw change passed, and that's what he was working on. Now, if it was wrong, it came out of the borough president's office, not from Bill Hall.
I'm not saying it was Bill's fault. I'm just saying we were operating under the assumption that it was true.
Well, so were
George
we.
just brought it up, and somebody should have told us that before.
So was Bill and the executive board. But it came out of the borough president's office, the approval, saying yes. Because Bill said we won't implement anything until we get an okay from 161st Street.
I think we're missing the point, gentlemen. I think the point is we have an opportunity to revisit this issue.
Not only that, but I'm sorry, George, but it was also should have been addressed when the term limits were implemented back in November when it was voted on. It should have been addressed right then and there, and it should have been addressed immediately, and it wasn't. It wasn't. And that's another thing that falls on our onus as well.
Exactly. This is a self-governing board. You are to police yourselves. I know, again, I'm very sincere and I take this job seriously, probably more seriously than a lot of people. We do a lot of things in this office like district budget consultations every year because of the seriousness that the effort that I put into this. You are a self-governing board. Maybe you should have a parliamentarian that looks after all of these things. We took a lot for granted when Father was here because he was an attorney, he knew how to count, he knew how to do everything. This is not the borough president's fault. This is our bylaws. Every community board has different bylaws. They're not dictated to us by the BP's office. They're dictated to us by the people who are sitting in this room. So again, this is an opportunity.
They should say they don't know.
You're right, they don't know.
Is it too late to have a revote? Suggestion. The liquor license.
Take a,
All right.
get a meeting, take a motion to close the meeting. Meeting, motion, Dr. Burke?
I'll make a motion that we close the meeting, that we adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Second? Everybody have a good Memorial Day weekend, and remember the people who sacrificed their lives for you.